Hello, everybody. What is up? We're here on the next volume of One Piece is Real, Volume 3, here with my lovely guest, Merphy, Napier. How are you doing, Merphy? Say hi to the chat.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Of course. And I know the guys are mad because I'm late, but you should get used to this already. This is JD Legends channel. We're never really on time, so you're just going to have to deal with it. Yeah, I can blame Merphy, but at the same time, it's definitely my fault. I was bullshitting around and nonsensing. But if you guys are not familiar with, wait, is the audio good? Can you guys hear us? Just making sure. Auto is double. The audio is double. All right, hold on. Let me fix that.
Have it open in another window?
No, I think we're good now. All right. No more double audio, so we should be good to go. Yeah, so we're good. So if you guys are familiar with the series, and if you're not familiar with the series, we've done 2 episodes of One Piece is Real. The first episode was with Loneliness, Robin, Parvision was there as well, and we talked about how we've all dealt with loneliness at one point in time. We talked about how Robin had dealt with loneliness and herself and how it shaped her character, and how there's always a way out of loneliness. And that's one of the beautiful things about One Piece, is that there's a lot of real themes out there that can resonate with you personally, and that you can be passionate about, and what really brings a connection to the fan base, to Oda, to the story and the characters. And then we delved into society, we delved into philosophy, we delved into world history and human history with the Gorosei and the Void Century, and all these themes that we keep seeing in One Piece that really let us know that One Piece is kind of like our world. And what we're going to do in the next episode is we're going to talk about Boa Hancock. Now, for most people that know, Merphy, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but I have a very, very strong Boa Hancock agenda. Like, it's very strong, because I think, one, she's the best female character in One Piece, arguably. Right? Then you have Nami. People argue Nami.
Really?
Yes. I think she's the best, personally. And we'll get into that.
Okay.
I think she's the best character in One Piece. I also think she's the strongest female in One Piece. And I also think her story, a lot of people don't understand because they don't like her character traits. But I wanted to talk to you because, one, I want to get your opinion on Boa first. Tell me what you think about her character traits, and your first opinion as when you were doing the One Piece read. What did you think about Boa when you first came across her?
Oh, you want my first impression?
I want your first.
You want to start off by making me look like a bad person?
Yes,
cool.
Yes, I do.
That'll be fun. I loved her when she was kicking puppies and knocking over statues and throwing women out the window. I know. I thought it was fun.
Fun!
I thought, yeah, Jay, I thought it was fun.
That's toxic. I'm supposed to be the toxic one. Okay, fair enough. Chat, we got another toxic One Piece YouTuber. It's here.
Listen, it was funny. It was played like One Piece is an over-the-top series. Everything's dramatic. Everything is done at 100. Boa was showing a standoffish, I'm bigger and badder than you, and no one can meet my level. Everybody bow down before me. And he did it in an over-the-top way, and I thought it was funny. And I loved her.
So you've gained like an entire fan base from my chat, because we like ratty things like that. I don't think anyone expects you to say you loved it. So that caught me off guard. But that's an interesting take. I don't think I've actually heard someone say it's been fun before. Like, I didn't mind it, I ignored it, but fun is different.
Yeah. So what's funny is, I would when I was reading, I still do, but when I was reading One Piece for the first time, I was live reading each thing, like, with my Patreon. And my Patreon, they were all like, okay, let's watch her hate Boa and then be won over. And I started off thinking that she was one of my new favorite characters. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, her backstory was one of the most incredible things. Not incredible, but, Oda, one of his best handlings, in my opinion, of sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then whenever she turned simp was when I turned against her. But then she won me back over because I love a good meme.
Okay, so we're going to delve into that, because you said she turned simp. Now, I don't know if we can start there. Actually, let's start there.
Okay, all right. I'm sure I'm with you on it now.
Okay.
But I liked her vibe. I liked her vibe when she was kicking puppies.
Yeah. It's going to take me a while. To get over that. So it's nice to hear that you liked her off the rip, because a lot of people didn't like it. Everyone's like, oh, how could you kick puppies? I'm sure people are. First of all, do you have any pets?
I have a cat, yeah.
Okay, did she kick a cat? She did. She kicked a puppy and a cat, right?
Kicked a seal. She kicked a seal.
She kicked a seal and a... Okay. All right, so then that's probably...
She kicked a cat, I'd still love her. I've had dogs in my life.
Okay. Because I'm about to say, I've never had pets, so I guess for me, I didn't feel the attachment. But for everyone that's like, oh, I hate her, they normally like pets, right? So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So...
I mean, I like old ladies.
You like...
Chucked one of those out the window.
Well, I mean, that's just memes. To me, like, you know, like the old cartoons, like...
It's all memes.
Okay, but you know, people love animals, right? It's like, oh, they're defenseless. Yeah, but old ladies can actually.
Your grandma.
So I think it's a case, right, where people see old people and be like, oh, at least they're cognizant. Cats and dogs are like they're kind of like innocent because they don't really know what they're doing besides just being dogs and cats. Oh, I know. Well, I know that. That's why I don't have one. But but I think that's where people like kind of toe the line. Trust me, it's a long, arduous battle I've had with people. But okay, so you like kicking puppies. We've established that. And a lot of people use that to disparage your character because there's also the scene where Boa Hancock knocks over the statue that the kids make her. Everyone loves Boa. Boa is this strong, powerful, cold ice queen. And that's what's presented to us. So if you hated her from the beginning, I understand. Now, you say you loved her, so that's fine. Me, I was intrigued. I'm like, all right, well, this girl is clearly a rat. Like, what's going on with her? Like, why is she acting this way? And what really struck home to me was Luffy in the bathhouse. And you realize that she has a secret. And we can start from there because once you have anyone that has a dark secret, they keep that very close to the chest and they rarely share it with anybody, right? And that sometimes it's a secret that's somebody else's secret or it's a secret that's hidden in trauma. And the whole theme of this is trauma because how Boa Hancock responds to trauma, how One Piece characters throughout the story respond to trauma ultimately defines their character. So if you look at Sanji in a case, he has abandonment issues, daddy issues, if you'd say. And for me, for someone who grew up with those type of issues, not me, I'm saying Sanji. For someone who grew up with those type of issues, I don't have daddy issues, chat. I might, who knows? But the point is, Sanji's relationship with Zeph defines his character, his ideals. Everything about Zeph is who Sanji is as a man. I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like Sanji's whole masculine persona is Zeph, period, point blank. So understanding why Sanji did what he did in Whole Cake Island requires you to understand Zeph and understand his trauma. And a lot of people look past that because we're reading a story week to week and you're thinking about it in the moment. I don't read One Piece that way. I read One Piece and why did he do that? What's the reasoning for do that? And that's kind of like I have a partial joy for psychology. So understanding people's behaviors helps me understand why I shouldn't be mad at someone else treating me like trash or anything like that. I was like, oh, okay, maybe they're dealing with something. Anyway, the point is with Boa Hancock, her behavior is strictly tied to her trauma. And when you saw that scene in the bathhouse and then you saw the Tenryubito mark, you already knew what that represented because we came from Sabaody. What were your thoughts when you came across that with Boa's character? Because we're going to go step by step till we get the big reveal.
Okay. First of all, I just recorded a Sanji discussion video today.
Ooh.
I'm also very interested in psychology and digging into what the core of a person's actions.
Perfect.
Anyway, what I'm trying to remember, I can't remember what my initial reactions to that was. I think I just remember, I'm trying to remember the order. We didn't know that she gave a false testimony of what happened when she was gone and why people can't see her back yet, right?
Right. We didn't know that yet. We just knew it was like the Gorgon fruit. You turn into stone if you see their back, everything like that. Yeah.
I don't think I remember my initial reaction to that. I mean, I know how I feel about it now. I do know that I appreciated the face Luffy made when she tried to attack him with her abilities, and it didn't work.
So a little trick. If you pay attention, if you look at the thumbnail, not many people will see it. In the little corner, I like to have a little shaded manga panel. It's actually Luffy's face as Boa uses the Mero. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah. So maybe I'll change the thumbnail so it's more visible. But I'm glad you brought that up.
That's awesome. Well, so wait, what was your initial reaction when you saw that scene then?
So Luffy said, "Wait a minute, I've seen that mark before." And the first thing I thought of is Mark. We just came from Sabaody. Celestial Dragon, right? I understand why they wouldn't want that to be seen. And then the reaction of the sisters kind of made me know, like, all right, this is different. Whatever the story they told, because we knew the story already. We knew it was a lie. So she has a big secret. The moment that came out, I'm like, okay, her character type is she's hiding from something. She's overcompensating for something. This whole attitude, bravado that she has, beautiful woman, all of that. One thing that you'll learn, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but no matter how aesthetically beautiful a person is, they always have insecurities, and a lot of people like to look at those people and assume they don't have insecurities, and that's wrong. Everyone has insecurities, and people that have that are normally paid attention to because of their aesthetics, people don't pay attention to what's actually deeper. They only see what's in the surface, and then people are prejudged. So Boa Hancock already deals with prejudgment anyway, but she's just overcompensated for him. Like, yo, if you're gonna judge me, you're gonna get all this attitude. I'm gonna kick puppies, I'm gonna kick seals, I'm gonna look down on you, I'm gonna throw old ladies out the window, and nobody's gonna check me on it. Now,
I don't think anybody was prejudging her though. People loved her.
oh, they loved her, but I'm saying, so remember, like, for example, people didn't pay attention to who she really was. They saw her beauty and they fell in love with her. And that's it. Like, they never really knew who Boa was. They only saw what they saw on the surface.
Hey, but she was holding them at arm's length. She
Oh,
refused
absolutely.
to let anyone in.
Absolutely. So I agree with that. But people who would look past that, like Luffy, would wonder, why is this person so mean? Remember, Luffy's the only one that's like, yo, you're a terrible person. Like, what's... like, you see, like, Luffy is that person where you look past the aesthetic and you're not fooled. You're not judging her by a covering. You're like, yo, why are you treating people this way? Like, what's going on? Your beauty, the beam, like, none of this makes sense to me. That's who Luffy is as a character. So for her, that was the first moment where I realized, I'm like, this girl's deeper than we think. There's more to be explored. And then we go into Luffy being captured and all the other stuff and yada, yada, yada. And we can get to the point where Boa starts...
I agree with everything that you're saying.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, you cut out a bit.
That's okay. I think I agree with everything that you were saying. To counterbalance it a little bit,
Okay.
In defense of the other people, of the people of the island, their mantra is beauty is power,
Right.
and so she's beautiful and she's a warlord. She's powerful, but too, she's their protector. Because of her warlord status, they're safe, and without her, they would be in danger. So I think some of their doting love is not surface level, it's understanding what she does for them.
Right.
I agree with everything you're saying, just throwing that on the other side.
And that's a
of the
good
scale.
point. No, that's a very good point, because that is why she's so revered within her country. And I guess a better way for me to say what I was saying is people outside of Amazon Lily. That's the culture
Okay,
of
I
Amazon
gotcha.
Lily, right? So that's on me, but that's absolutely important. So, for example, what I normally like to use is the Marines, and how the Marines interacted with her, and then Granny Neon as well. Like, those are the people that really treated her like a person, outside of the fact that the Marines were thirsty and all that other stuff. Momonga, I love Momonga. That's a whole other agenda I have. But, like, that in itself, you realize that, okay, there's more to Boa than we realize. And there's some people that will look at the Amazon Lily culture and be like, Boa is strong, powerful, beautiful. We adore her for that. But they don't know who she really is. Same thing with the Marines. Nobody really knows who she is except for her sisters. And one thing that I liked a lot is when Luffy was put on trial, Boa was testing Luffy because she had this preconceived notion about men. Now, mind you, that's not, I don't even know if preconceived is the word, but that notion was correct because of what she went through. So
Sure, yeah.
we're going to be jumping back and forth quite a bit here, but let's just go into why Boa has that notion, and then we go back to her testing Luffy. Because this is where it gets a little raw and it gets a little gritty. Because I think Oda, while this is a children's story, Oda leaves a lot of hints of very, very, very dark things. Like, Big Mom and the kids, themes of slavery, fish knot, all that other stuff. O'Hara, genocide, right? We don't really realize how terrible these things are because it's a children's story, but these things are horrific. And when you think of Amazon Lily, all woman island, 12-year-olds captured and taken to be slaves. And then you look at the reaction of Sanda Sonia, where Boa Hancock is talking about the traumas and how the fact that they think about it, she breaks down and screams immediately. Like, people don't pay attention to that because I've watched a lot of dramas. I've know people that have been traumatized as well. If they react that way, that's still fresh. It's still a very, very fresh wound. Boy, Hancock,
You don't heal from trauma like that.
you don't heal. You don't. And a lot of people don't understand that when you deal with trauma, there's many different ways that you can deal with it. There's many different reactions. And I want to take a pause here because I can go forever. In terms of trauma, I'm not going to ask if you've dealt with traumas in the past. You don't have to get that personal. I'm a very open book, so I will share a bit of my own. But in terms of like trauma and how you dealt with it personally, how did you get to learn more about yourself and the concept of trauma by dealing with with traumas that you dealt with in the past? Like, what did you learn about yourself as a result?
So, what a great question. What a big question. So, when I was in therapy, my therapist explained that when you deal with trauma, imagine your emotions are like a row of faucets. And especially when you deal with childhood trauma, your mind isn't developed enough to be able to process certain traumas and certain things that have been done to you. So a lot of times what a child will do is they'll try to shut off that faucet and they'll try to just shut that down to protect themselves. So when you shut off one faucet, it will then affect the others. And I feel like Boa is an excellent example of that, in that she needed to shut something down as a child who had been horribly abused, and in that she shut down a lot. So she held people at arm's length. She was cold. She was sometimes violent, and all of that. And how did I deal with my trauma? Well, who knows, honestly. But when I was a teen working through my trauma, I had a lot of, I wasn't kicking puppies, but I was very cold and standoffish and bursts of anger. I just did a video on Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Best character.
He's so relatable
Best
on how he
character.
deals with his trauma. My goodness. But yeah, that she's very relatable in how she's closed herself off, built up walls, and has this, I don't care. That's like her facade. And that was me. That was me going through all of my emotions, was just very much like, I don't care. That was my catchphrase. I remember my best friend one time just turned to me and said, "Do you care about anything?" Because that was my catchphrase. And I was like, oh no. I didn't realize that I was doing this.
Yeah.
But it's a trauma response. And that's not to excuse it, like having been hurt isn't an excuse to hurt other people. It doesn't. Boa Hancock is a flawed character, and not liking that she kicks puppies and throws old ladies out the window is valid. Like, that's pretty reasonable. But that's a built-in flaw because she's broken, not because of anything she did, but like that happens when somebody harms you. You get cracked, and that shows through. And Oda wasn't afraid to show her cracks.
One, thank you for sharing that, because I know like I said, I'm an open book, so I always appreciate when people can actually share how they dealt with very personal matters, and that's very important, because I have a friend who was like you, that they acted like nothing bothered them, nothing cared, and then out of nowhere, when I finally get that crack, you see a burst of emotion. You see a burst of anger, a lot of angry fits, things like that. And I'm like, okay, there's something here, but you're not getting it out. And I'm assuming that's what your therapist eventually told you, like, and you worked through that. And, that whole disconnecting from the world and isolation, that's all symptoms of people dealing with trauma. And one thing that you mentioned was very important. When you were at the age you were at, you didn't know how to deal with it. So you find ways to deal with it. Bo was captured at 12. She spent 4 years in captivity. You saw what they did to fishermen, male fishermen. Now imagine, and I'm not going to explain or share anything about what could have happened, but take a few seconds and imagine what her and her sisters went through.
Well, the fact that they assume all men are violent, evil creatures is a pretty good indicator.
Pretty good indicator. And if you know things about slavery, one, slavery is not a good time. So you would assume, harsh conditions, starvation, beating, all kinds of manner of terrible things at the age of 12 where you don't even know how to process it. And, I think there's one specific phrase that encapsulates all of Boa Hancock's character. And it's where she's telling Luffy, and I don't want to jump ahead, but I did say we're going to jump around. Anyway, so she basically said that I'll never be vulnerable again. I'll never be weak again. I'll never allow them to see this weakness. I can't afford for them to see it. She spent 4 years of her life being tormented by men and society. So to her, the outside world is a world ruled by men. And not just men. These are celestial dragons. So we go back to One Piece's Row Volume 2, where we talked about how celestial dragons dictate the morality of the world. These guys are untouchable. Everything they do, they don't get reprimanded for. So put that context into Boa Hancock's psyche. I want nothing to do with the outside world. Men are terrible. Men don't get punished. Therefore, if I'm going to be the queen of Amazon Lily, this is how I'm dealing with my trauma. Nobody is getting in. Nobody is going to see me as kind. No vulnerability. Zero. And she's like anti-vulnerable, if anything. So when I see that trauma, I'm thinking this is a brilliant and outstanding character, because I don't think we've gotten a character in One Piece yet, a female character that has that level of introspection into her trauma when it comes to things that can relate to you as well. So for me, an example that I would say is, as a kid, I grew up sheltered. So there was a lot of things I wasn't able to experience as a kid growing up in high school. And as a result, I don't want to say that I was angry at my parents, but I wanted to be free. And as a result, I learned to shut myself in because I always knew I couldn't truly express what I wanted. I grew up in an African Christian home, so you have to understand there's certain levels of I can't talk back, I can't say anything, any hint of talking back, and it's over. So there's a lot of repressed emotions that are bubbling up in my soul. So I developed a mechanism where I don't really open up that well. I'm an open person, but when it comes to opening up, like legitimately, like the real dark stuff, I don't share it because, one, you have this notion, and I'm sure you'll say it's not true, but you have this notion as a man, you can't really share your traumas. You kind of got to suck it up and deal with it. Be a man. You can't cry. Things like that. You see, I knew it. I knew you couldn't hold back, but it's fair. You're completely correct, right? And I think that was one of the biggest things for me, because as a result of that, I learned to hold things in. Anytime someone would make me upset, I'd hold things in. I consider myself a sensitive person. So what would happen is somebody would say something to me, I'd get upset, but I know I'm supposed to be nice because my parents raised me to be nice, well-mannered. That's how you're raised in African Christian homes. Every adult is correct. If you yell, you're wrong. If you lash out, you're wrong. Everything that you do is wrong. So I'm like, okay, I let people get away with things they shouldn't have. I let people walk over me. I never really stood up for myself in high school and college and stuff like that. So I developed a lot of anger and bitterness within myself. And because of that, that trauma that I dealt with changed my character. And I was very, very emotional as a result, because I never got these emotions out. They got a certain point in time, God bless my best friend, she told me that you need to just let this stuff out. It took me to age 25 to get to that point, but she said, just start saying it. Who cares who you offend? Who cares who gets upset? It's got to go. So the more I started to express myself, the more my relationship with my parents got better, my friends, family. I met so many more people. I was able to finally say things that, hey, maybe you didn't like what I said, but maybe we can talk about it and figure it out. But I got it out. And to be honest with you, I'm still dealing with it today. I mean, being a YouTuber was a huge step, and maybe we can talk about your YouTube journey at some point as well, because I know that's all a big step for everybody. But me being able to express myself and share these things, I would have never done it, ever. So to go back to Boa Hancock and go back to the subject, I understand what that's like. I understand what that's like to be like, you know what? Nobody else cares, so why should I? I'm going to put up this front. I'm going to be the best version of this person that I believe I can be. But we get into the part where she's testing Luffy. There's always one person that brings it out in you. I'm sure you can attest to that. I can attest to that. There is always one person that opens that door and the floodgates come out. Boa kept testing Luffy. Okay, well, you know, if you're not going to do this, then I'm going to turn my friends, I'm going to turn these Marigold and everyone into stone. And then what are you going to do now? You're going to get upset, right? I'm going to give you the ship and you can leave, right? Like all these tests. And Luffy surprises her every time. He's destroying her world little by little. You know, oh, I can do this because I'm beautiful. Luffy's like, you're annoying. I hate you. She's just like, oh my God, my heart. I've never seen a man like this before, you know? And while that's happening and she's having those reactions, what was going through your mind? Like, what did you see from Boa there?
Oh yeah, I mean, she was someone who had been proven time and time again that men desire something from me and that I am an object. And Luffy proved to her time and time again, I don't want anything from you, and I don't want anything from your sisters. And even, you know, when they were in the middle of that fight and he's trying to protect these girls who've been turned to stone, and he's covering one of her sister's backs, and he says, I know you want to kill me. I'm not interested in killing you. This isn't a part of our fight, so I'm going to protect this. He didn't know that what he was protecting was wrapped up in trauma. He didn't care. He didn't want something from her. And I think the combination of him not wanting something from these women who have only had one experience and protecting something that they said they didn't want to share. And then whenever Boa decided to trust him, she started shaking as she started telling her story, and he said, whoa, stop. Like, you don't have to do this. If this is hard for you, you don't have to do this. And then she continued to tell her story anyway, and then it didn't shift anything in his mind. He didn't expect her to be without cracks. And obviously he doesn't view her from a romantic lens, which I think is part of her attraction to him. But for him, it was, or for her, I think a lot of it was just seeing that there is a man that she can trust to not take advantage of her was like world shattering to her. I can't hear you at all.
Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Okay, perfect. Sorry. I was about to say, yes, that is very important. So the fact that Luffy wasn't looking at her in that lens, she expected him to succumb to her beauty at some point, her aesthetic, her vibe, anything. Luffy didn't succumb to it at all. And to tie in the origination of this discussion about how there's always that one person, for me, it was my friend who I was finally vulnerable with, and I shared to them all the things I was too ashamed to tell them. Too ashamed. They sat there in a corner and said, I'm going to be your psychiatrist. Tell me everything. Everything that you're scared of, everything that you didn't like, anything. Just tell me all these things. I swore I couldn't tell this to anybody. She sat there and listened to everything I said. And for Boa, Luffy being that one person to realize this is a man. I rarely see men. The only men I've seen are absolute scum. This is a man who is as pure as I've ever seen it. To me, this is a fairy tale. To her, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So it's no surprise that she fell for him. But whenever you can be vulnerable with somebody, that's when a real relationship is formed. You can hang out with people as many times as you like. You can go out drinking. You can go out playing basketball, lifting, all of that. It's not until you have that moment where it's just you, the other person, or a group of people, and you talk about some real stuff. You talk about a breakup, a terrible ex. You talk about family trauma, childhood trauma. Once you have those moments, that's when the connection is built. I personally don't think Boa had that connection with anybody outside of her sisters. When you look at Granny Neon and you look at Rayleigh, I think she had reverence for them because Rayleigh saved her, Fisher Tiger saved her, Granny Neon was basically her mother. But they never really got the vulnerable side of Boa. Only her sisters did, but their sisters went through the same thing, so that it doesn't count. To me, it doesn't count. Luffy is the one person, she's like, okay, I'm going to show you this. And she got naked in front of him. Someone like Boa getting naked in front of you and Luffy still not reacting, I think made her fall deeper in love with him than before. Because he's like, yo, this guy really doesn't care. Like, at all. He doesn't. And in that moment where she opened up to Luffy, she started crying. And we talk about, I'll never be vulnerable again. I'll never be weak again. To me, it's a very emotional moment for me personally because I know what it's like to finally get something off your chest. And the most important thing is Luffy didn't judge her for it. He didn't think, oh, you're a former slave, you're weird, you're damaged goods. You're always worried about what people think. And she is fighting the notion of being damaged goods because mentally she's damaged. Emotionally, she's scarred. They're not going away. So to her, Luffy is the ultimate acceptance. And, it's important because in today's world, in today's society, you're an influencer. I hate the term, but we are influencers. So we're at that point. Everybody is trying to tell you what to be, who to be, how to be, and who to be with. Everybody. Someone with 200 followers or someone with 40 followers and follows 1,000 people will have one opinion, and that opinion in a comment section could affect you and make you think, oh my God, there's something wrong with my life.
For sure.
They're not qualified. They don't even know you. They've never met you a day in your life. All they've seen is your tweet, but that can affect you.
Sure.
Then add the fact that people like us who are influencers, we can say something to you or say something that, oh, you should live your life this way. Or you should never kiss on the first date, for example, right? And sorry, I don't know why that analogy came up. But points like that, people will take that and be like, oh, this is how I should live my life. If he said it, that's it. That's how it should be.
Sure.
But what we all really, really want is for people to just accept us for who we are and not judge us. There is no more relaxing feeling. There's no more comforting feeling. There's no more open feeling than that moment. And you'll find that a lot of people that have best friends, godmothers, sisters, brothers, it's that moment where you're in the room with somebody and it's like, you know everything about me, so I don't have anything to hide. I can tell you anything. I don't think Boa had that with anyone else before. So her relationship with Luffy, to me, her simping is innocence. Now, we're going to get into the simping because now you said you hated the simping. So before we get into the Luffy simping and everything, why did you hate the simping? What was about it that bothered you at first?
Oh, I didn't even hate it. It didn't even bother me. It was just, shucks. I liked the old vibe. This is different. It was just kind of like a bummer.
No kicking puppies?
But I miss the kicking puppies. Why'd you stop?
I think, did she not kick another puppy when she went back on the ship to Impel Down, I think? Or was it a seal?
She might have done.
I think she did.
It's possible.
I'll have to go back.
Man, I just like the vibe. I don't know. But anyway, I got over it because one, I love a good meme and it became a meme. But two, because I'm sure we're going to get into it. There's a lot behind why, as you put it, her being able to be vulnerable and be fully accepted in that vulnerability opened up all the faucets and made her, completely vulnerable with him. There's a lot to that. But I think what you were saying, especially about the experience you had with your friend, is a good point, Jay. Like, truly, that is what people want to be able. Oh, sorry. Can you not hear me?
I couldn't hear you before, but now I can. So you can just say that again real quick.
Okay, sure. I think what you said, the experience you had with your friend is truly what people want. People want to be able to just be honest, just show themselves without having to put on a mask, and the response to be, okay, I love you. Like, it's as simple as that. That can move a person's entire world and self-worth. I can't hear you.
I do this every time. Sorry.
Yeah,
the scariest thing in the world, to me at least, is that first initial stage where you're about to say something that you've never wanted to share. I've been in that moment before, especially when you have to wait for the person to actually get in the room and then tell them. Like, I'll never forget the first time I told my mom I want to move out. Now, again, Christian, traditional, Nigerian, African, they were very, very, very strict. And when I told my mom I wanted to move out, it was a horrible experience. Now, this is not to disparage my mother at all, because this is just how moms are when they lose their firstborn son.
Oh, sure.
My dad told me as well. This is how they are. I was petrified because that was the biggest thing that I needed to get over. Was like, yo, I'm 25. I know it's great to live at home, but like I need to get out of here. Like I know I could have, but I need to get out of here. Like, and I know a lot of people in the chat, they're seeing it because they understand. They know what that is like. Like it's a little different. I had all my friends moved out when they're 18, got jobs. You know, they're able to have girlfriends and do all kinds of little things. Look at them just living life, and I'm just sitting there like, man, I wish I could just leave. Just leave the home. Like imagine that's the bar, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So that moment, that fear of showing who you really are is huge. And, you know, I want to speak to everyone in the chat right now that understands that fear that you have, that's what makes you strong, is when you beat that fear. Fear is relative. Some people are scared of heights. If you're able to ride a roller coaster after your fear of heights for 20 years, you are strong. That's what strength is all about. Overcoming.
What was the quote? There's an Eleanor Roosevelt quote. It's like fear or bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acknowledging it and moving forward anyway.
Absolutely. I haven't heard the quote, but thank you for telling me because now I'm gonna look it up. But yes, that's exactly what it is. It's like courage. You can't have courage without fear. Because in order to be courageous, you have to beat the fear that you have. It's like the stereotypical badass fighter in an anime, and he's like, "How come you're never scared?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm always scared." Like you always have those moments. And someone's saying that's why Usopp's the GOAT. There's an Usopp episode coming. Don't spoil it, but yes, it's gonna be all about courage and bravery and all that other stuff. But you know, it's again, this is why Boa Hancock as a character resonates with me, because you can dig deeper into what you went through. And I think when you look at a character like Nami, she had a very traumatic past as well. Absolutely. And she had a very similar reaction to Boa, which is like, well, she had morality and stealing from pirates only, so she had like a filter to a certain degree. She was always a good person. Boa, I think, genuinely was a bad person in the terms of how she behaved.
Sure, absolutely.
Until we figured out why she's that way.
I disagree with you.
Really? You still think she's a bad person?
No, I don't think she was a bad person. I think her behavior is still bad. It's like somebody having a trauma response to something doesn't justify that trauma response. Like just because it's a trauma response doesn't mean that what they did was acceptable. And agree. I mean, like, look at Zuko. Zuko's actions aren't justified. We shouldn't be talking about another series. I'm so sorry.
Me and Braga talked about Hunter x Hunter for 30 minutes. Okay. So you can please cook. Just cook.
Zuko's actions aren't justified just because his father did this to him, you know? But Zuko took responsibility for his actions. He said, look at them. They hate us. Not they hate you. They hate us for what we've done. He took responsibility for that because he took part in it, even though it was something that his father led him to and taught him to do and told him, you're worthless if you're not this, right? But he still has control of his life, and he made the choice to say, I did that and I'm done. And Boa did that. And like her actions aren't justified just because she's traumatized. But part of human interaction, part of loving each other is recognizing those moments and saying, I see what this is and I love you. And then like moving forward despite it and being okay with the fact that we're human.
So then let me ask you this. You're correct that Boa still has bad behavior, and it still continues. Like, remember when Luffy and Jinbei were on the island after Marineford, and she's like, Jinbei, you can't eat this food. Like, would you consider that Boa having bad behavior still, or is that just a gag? Because gags in One Piece... Go ahead.
It's a gag. I mean, but it can be both. Like, Oda plays everything off as a gag. Kicking puppies was a gag, but like it can be both. And that's a great thing about One Piece is he adds this tint of humor to everything. So you can just roll with it and have a good time, or you can dig deeper. And we have that opportunity with Boa where we can say that's a gag, but it's also a sign of deeper things that we can dig into. So
you still think she's, based on what we've seen from Boa afterwards, in Marineford, for example, as well, has her behavior changed at all? Has it only just been with Luffy? Have you noticed a change in anything?
I don't think falling in love healed her of her trauma.
It definitely didn't heal. So trauma's always going to be there. I'm saying, was there any improvement in the behavior?
Was there any improvement? I haven't hung out with her enough to know. Who knows?
Oh my goodness.
I hope so. No, Jay. I don't know. I hope so. I mean, really, we haven't spent that much time. Now, has she changed in her behavior towards Luffy? Big time. She feels the opportunity to be vulnerable with somebody for the first time in her life, so she's reverted back to that 12-year-old girl experiencing her first crush, and she's completely open with him. And I think that while it's goofy, it's silly, it's a gag, it's also beautiful that she gets to have that vulnerability. Is she nicer to other people? Not really. I mean, she walked in on her ship, and I don't remember exactly how it went, but there was like a line of men, and she was just like, bye. Like, she just knocked them all over, kicked them all or something. I don't remember what it was. Like, she still doesn't trust your average guy. I still don't blame her for that, you know?
So I was about to say, like, so because that's also an added element, right? And you're right, and I've gotten this debate with a lot of people. You cannot excuse bad behavior no matter what the reason is in the trauma. I understand that, but in her case, it's hard for me. In her case, it's like I see
You can't excuse it, but for Boa, you can excuse it.
But that's what I'm saying.
Beautiful.
I didn't want to say no, not because of the beauty. No.
I just love a good meme. I'm gonna lean into the memes.
Okay, fair enough. However, I do excuse it, and maybe that's me enabling bad behavior. Maybe I'm an enabler. Whatever. It is what it is.
Allowed to have feelings about stuff.
To me, I get it. Now, if I was in the One Piece world, I wouldn't get it because I don't know anything about her. I'm like, all right, well, this woman's clearly a rat, so I'd be
you're
upset.
in the One Piece world, and
Yes.
she's trusted you with the information. Do you excuse her behavior? Do
Yes.
you see her kicking a puppy and chucking a woman out a window and say, it's okay, babe, I love you?
After I learned this,
After you learn this.
yeah, I do. Because in that moment in time, first of all, you said babe, so I'm assuming I'm dating her now. So at this point,
I was talking. I'm calling her babe. I'll date her.
oh, okay. Well, assuming I'm in Luffy's position, right?
Okay.
And I understand this. It's like in that moment in time, I have to show love. I have to, because you got to give people time. Now, will I pull her to the side and be like, hey, like maybe you shouldn't kick the puppy, maybe a light little kick, you know, just to move it out the way, or I can pick it up for you.
Kick it a little bit.
Just a slight kick, like nothing crazy, like just move it to the
Dangle
side.
the lady out the window, but don't let go.
Just, yeah, if you really want to get angry, like dangle her a little bit and we'll bring her back in. No problem, right? I will slowly give her leeway, but now that I understand where it comes from, this is something that's going to take a long time to fix. I'm not going to fix this bad behavior. Not to say I'm fixing it, but we're not going to be able to fix this behavior in one night. So I'm going to give you the grace because you've been vulnerable with me. The more comfortable you are with me, the more you're going to talk to me, the more I can be like, hey, let's stop kicking puppies. Let's not break the kids' statues of the people that love you and adore you. You know, no more old ladies out the window. Like, just little hints, you know, you have kids, so you would understand, like, just, you know, ease them in. Ease into it. Ease into the free trauma. That's how I behave.
Okay, fair enough. I think we're almost in the same place. I do not excuse it, even if, like, real world we're best friends. I don't excuse it. However, I do think that part of being a good friend is calling each other out, you know, is saying, like, hey, not acceptable. I completely agree that behavior isn't changed overnight. That's impossible. And healing from trauma is a long game. So absolutely true. And Boa is a child that had a horrifying long experience and then was forced to grow up way too fast and became a protector. So there's a lot tied up in that. But she obviously loves her people. She obviously cares about them deeply.
Agreed.
So working with her on, hey, here's another way to love them. Say thank you next time instead of, like, you know, breaking the statue. Like, these are good things to talk through.
Yeah. So you're right in that sense where calling people out is important. And for me personally, I don't like enabling friends. They bother me because I'm always thinking, about something I might be doing wrong. And my best friends are normally people that are very, very scarily straightforward. They call me out in ways that would hurt other people's feelings, but I've gotten used to it. Those people are incredibly important for me, but I think it depends on the person. And that's why I say with Boa, when I look at her character, Granny Neon serves the purpose of telling her how it is consistently 24/7. The difference is that Boa was never able to receive that. Boa was only able to receive mild rehabilitation when there was grace involved and care and thoughtfulness. And then also just who that person was as Luffy. I think Luffy arguably is the only one. Luffy or Zoro, actually, because Zoro also has a little bit of that stoicism that Luffy can have in moments like that, right? So maybe Zoro could have got that out in Boa.
Sure. He certainly wouldn't have flinched if he saw her naked.
Oh, absolutely not. No. Which is, Zoro is very interesting in that regard, but maybe that's a conversation for another time. I wonder if Zoro would turn to stone. That's a question.
I don't think he would.
I think that's a Twitter
question.
Care. I think we should do a poll. We'll do a poll on Twitter at some point and then see what.
We do know that if he felt that coming on him, he would cut off his own legs. So
yes, he would. He'd probably do what Momonga did actually, which is fair. Which is actually very fair. God, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I remembered it. So with Boa, it was the ability to be vulnerable with Luffy and the fact that Luffy kind of gave her that grace and was gentle in receiving, like you're saying, oh, like you don't have to do that. All that gentle nature is what opened Boa up. So when I answered the question about being a little bit kinder and gentler, it's not because, and I know the chat would say, it's not because I'm a simp. It's because I've observed that.
Imagine basic kindness being equated to being a simp.
We look at the world we live in.
The internet.
Look at the world we live in. So anywho, just gotta double check. But basically, it's that gentleness that opened her up, and I think that approach with her probably would have received it more. Like, you have to continue in that grace and that gentleness for her to receive it, because I think eventually that's how she will rehabilitate, because the more you are direct with her, the more combative she's going to be, because that's not gone. That's her personality trait right now. Her trauma, her personality, they're intertwined together. So if you meet aggression, which is what she's dealt with at an early age, with her aggression, you only get more aggression. With Boa, gentleness is the only way you're gonna really fix that bad behavior. Now,
I do agree. I think generally calling out your friends in aggression will fail. A firm, loving call out is generally the way to go. It's so. Jumping back into my own trauma, my friend that started it all for me was the one that called me out and said, "Do you care about anything?" Like, he snapped at me, and it was the first time I self-reflected and realized how often my response was, "I don't care," because I tried not to care about anything, and that was the beginning of me looking at someone who was emotionally healthy, this friend, and observing his day-to-day life and interaction with the world, how often he smiled, how often he laughed, and trying to replicate it. And it began with a replication, and then eventually I learned to start opening up those faucets and figuring out how I feel. So, I mean, it was, he was a nice guy. He wasn't mean to me, but it began with a call out, a wake-up call of the kind of behavior I was doing without even realizing it.
And ironically, that's how it started with Boa. Luffy called her out.
That's true.
That's how
Good
it started.
point,
Luffy
dude.
called her out.
Man.
Yeah, so we're right. I think we're right in sync here. Like, you call them out,
call.
establish it, and then you slowly, day to day, rehabilitate. Now, Luffy's personality was rehabilitating her, but I guess in our context, we would consciously try and do it. But yes. So we're on the same page there. So we're at the point now where we didn't really establish whether her behavior has changed. I would say when I saw her at Impel Down, I saw a lot more. I think you saw the professional side of Boa, where when she talked with Ace, I think was really interesting. But I think that might just be Luffy tax again. But we saw a real human professional side of Boa that I enjoyed quite a bit. But then outside of that, she's only going to be surrounded by the people that she's only been surrounded by. So Boa doesn't really expose herself to the world, period. I think until she actually is out and about in the world, will we actually be able to see that change? But as long as she's still in that same environment and everyone loves her, I think that's all you're going to get. Now, some people will use that and say, well, she hasn't changed, so what about her trauma? I still don't like her as a character. And mind you, you shouldn't tell people what they should like. But I'm going to tell you that you're wrong for hating her character, because you are. No, like, I know you thought I was going to be like, be inclusive. Yeah, no, you're wrong. Oh, man. You're wrong. No, you're absolutely wrong. Yes, because it's like, okay, to me, it doesn't make sense. There's so many characters that have done deplorable things in our story that we still love.
Yes.
And we understand why they did the things they did. Doflamingo. The guy is terrible. Genuinely terrible.
I love Doflamingo.
I love Doflamingo. You don't love Dofi?
No.
Okay, you don't love villains?
He killed baby oars.
Is that the reason?
That's the reason.
That's the only reason.
Oh, there's more, but
that can't be it. That can't just be the reason.
I mean, he's the best villain in One Piece. But he killed baby oars, and then he laughed.
Someone in the chat said he just got a leg. It's nothing crazy.
Dude!
Technically.
Oh my goodness, I'm one of the bad people! Because I saw his actions, hated him, got his backstory, and I was like, don't care! Evil!
You see? Okay, so listen.
I'm one of the people.
Okay, you, in that sense, you would be one of the people, but you can like bad people. You just don't say, oh, I don't align with the bad behavior, right? Like, I align with Boa's response to trauma and her rehabilitation. I don't align with Dofi's evil. I respect it. And I respect his motivations. Okay. So, like, for Dofi,
I would put like the Arlong Pirates in that category, where it's like, I don't align with anything you did, but I see where you're coming from. I see how you got here, and I still don't excuse you. I get you.
So, you have hit a very personal topic for me, because I love Arlong. I love Arlong, and I love the story of the fisherman. Ironically, that's the next episode, but you know, that's for another time.
No kidding.
You said what?
I just said no kidding.
Oh, okay, sorry, because there was a bit of a lag there.
Oh, you're good.
I love Arlong because when you look at what it's the rhetoric that you have to pay attention to. Another example of why One Piece is real. One Piece is real. Fishman Island, Volume 4 with Parvision. You'll see it. Look at the way Arlong talks about fishmen and his fishmen brothers. And then you look at what the fishmen went through. Mm-hmm. That trauma response is so overwhelmingly positive for his people that you cannot help but admire it. You don't like what he did with Nami and the humans, but you look at what they went through. That Fisher Tiger flashback changed so much for me.
It really did.
So much for me with Arlong. I was really like, wow.
That's another one that Oda, like, okay, so going back to Boa, the way Oda handled her backstory and the way he handled the telling of her tale, the care and sensitivity and intentionality that he put into it, knocked it out of the park.
I agree.
Out of the park.
I agree.
Fishman Island arc and how that tied back into Arlong, that whole backstory, knocked it out of the park.
Yep.
Fishman Island is a masterful arc to me.
So, I'm glad we agree. No, don't say sorry at all. Don't say sorry, because I agree. See, Fishman Island to me, I hate Vanderdecken. Despise him.
Sure.
Trash, right? Hody Jones. I've come around to Hody's purpose, but as a character and who he is, garbage, right? Fine. His purpose is beautiful. You take out Hody, you take out the Sanji nosebleeds, and you take out Vanderdecken.
The Sanji nosebleeds.
The worst experience as a Sanji fan. I actually genuinely believe Sanji was at his worst in One Piece history in Fishman Island. One, because of the nosebleeds, and that moment with Jinbei and Nami where he intervened by Jinbei crying.
Oh.
Terrible.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Terrible.
Oh. Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. So, like, when I see that, I'm like, Sanji, you lost a lot of fans there. But It's a lot to take out. So you take out Vanderdecken, Hody, and Sanji's nosebleeds. You're taking out
Poppy.
Huh?
Take out Caribou too.
Okay, well, I can live with Caribou. I can live with him.
Worst character in the entire series.
Were you not a fan?
No one.
Were you not a fan of the barrel?
I'm not a fan of any scene that Caribou enters.
Not the Frankie in the barrel?
Delete them all! Yeah, it was really funny. I just hate him so much.
That's fair. We don't like Caribou. We like what happens to Caribou. That's how it is. Okay, someone in the chat saying you hate him. Okay, I see it. I didn't know this was
pretty pissed off that he gave worst character in the series. Oda, delete him. Sorry, you may continue.
I did not know that was a pain point for you. Like, your reaction to him is not my reaction to Chopper, I guess, but Chopper is...
Chopper? Jay! You can have lackluster feelings about Chopper, but what I just displayed, that should not be what you compare Chopper to.
So... I've become better with Chopper, but in the past, I had a lot of trauma with my hatred for Chopper, and it has...
You just throw trauma around like that.
Okay, I'm sorry for throwing the word around. It was a joke. But at the same time, I'm saying I had my issues with Chopper. Now, I think the Caribou hatred is aggressive. I won't lie, it's very aggressive. I understand it because I can be aggressive, so that's fine.
I won't hold back.
No, as you shouldn't. We don't hold back on this channel. A lot of people understand that. So please, like, let any agenda that you have, just let it out. So you have a Caribou agenda. We're gonna remember that. You know, we're probably gonna call it out in the reverie. I'll personally call it out. Actually, represent you there.
Do it.
We got lost on. Oh yes, so we're take out Caribou. I guess for you, we're taking Caribou out.
Thank you.
You take out Caribou, Vanderdecken, and Sanji's nosebleeds and Hody, and you've taken out a good chunk of Fishman Island. Which is why, for me, I could never rate Fishman Island higher than a 7, but I can't rate it lower than a 6. So it's like, for me, it's a 7. Because you cannot ignore those elements. However,
yeah.
those moments, like, again, that moment with Jinbei letting Arlong go, that moment with Fisher Tiger not accepting the human blood, Arlong watching him save that little girl that he wanted to kill, Fisher Tiger dies because of that. There's no coming back with Arlong. There's zero. And they were all slaves. I mean, Arlong was a slave, wasn't he? He was a slave with all of them.
Yeah.
So it's like, you look at Boa Hancock and then you look at Arlong, and I'm like, well, arguably, he's justified. Arguably. Now, justified in his mind. In terms of the world of morality, which is normally gray, you're making someone else suffer because of your trauma. Nobody should suffer because of something somebody else did.
Absolutely.
Ever.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to these characters like Doflamingo, Arlong, Boa Hancock, characters like that where I can understand their motivations and why they behave they do, to me, are the best characters in the story. That is why, like, this is why I have this whole series, because I can talk about stuff like this, because in the real world, we escape with fantasy, fiction, reading, One Piece. We escape in this world. So we think this happy-go-lucky pirate world is really innocent in a sense. We read it in an innocent lens, you know, because Oda likes to add the gags and the memes and Chopper being merchandise and so cuddly and all this other stuff like that. Sorry, I had to get that dig in. And when you take away the lens, the shonen lens, and then you look at these characters, for me, I don't think a lot of people talk about the real world concepts and the relatability that comes with these characters. When I talked about racism with Fishman Island and how me as an African American, I can understand the small microaggressions and the small behaviors that they exhibit, because when you live in a world where you've been judged by the color of your skin, thank God we're kind of free of that world, you're going to have those preconceived notions that are embedded in your soul, arguably to the day you die, because there is years and years of history. And there will still be people out there that will look at you, look at the color of your skin. You could be wearing a suit and drinking, I don't know, a nice coffee from Starbucks, and they'll still cross the street. They still will, you know. And in your mind,
Maybe they just had to cross the street. You don't know. But in your mind, based on what you've experienced and what you know, you always come back to that little thought. It's because of your skin. It's that little thought, whether it's true or not, which is the problem. It doesn't have to be true. That's what a lot of people don't understand. It doesn't have to be true. It's the thought that does the damage, not the reality. Once you get into the mind can do more damage than reality ever could. That's why, to me, people talk about physical abuse. Physical abuse is horrific. Mental abuse, physical abuse, the scars go away. Sometimes they don't, depending on how bad it gets. When you get tormented mentally, that sticks. Especially because there will be people in this world that will bring back those repressed emotions. So when you look at Boa, when you look at Arlong, Dofi maybe to a less degree. Because Dofi just said I'm gonna kill everybody. When you look at Boa and Arlong specifically, Arlong will always be reminded of his trauma because of humans. When I see a human, I'm traumatized. That is Arlong's character. So when he sees fishermen, he overcompensates for that trauma with his love for his fisherman brethren. Someone knocked out a scrub, a fodder, random fodder. Arlong was incensed. Who put their hands on my brother? Who did it? Because I know it wasn't a fisherman. So if it wasn't a fisherman, somebody's dying. Boa is like, men did this to me. Specifically men. Any man outside of this world is absolute scum to me. So when I say that I have a little bit more leeway for Boa Hancock, it's because I understand that mental experience is so heavy for her that Luffy's interaction with her was that much bigger. You don't understand the magnitude of Luffy's interaction with Boa until you understand what trauma is. And you can't understand what trauma is until you look within yourself and relate it to you and realize, oh my God.
Yeah.
Boa is dealing with a lot more than I thought she was.
Yeah. I love that you directly drew those parallels because I completely agree. And because the Celestial Dragons are such a huge part of Arlong's story as well, and the Fishman's story, well, this parallel I think is essential because what we see is two people whose behavior is not acceptable, but you get why this is where they've landed. And it gives you that compassion for them and that understanding of their journey and how they got here. And it's really powerful that Oda chose to draw these parallels, and especially with Arlong, to continue his story, to show his behavior first and then show what's underneath. And he did the same thing with Boa, to show her behavior first and then show what's underneath. And it's a really powerful display of humanity where when we meet someone, we see their behavior first, we see their attitude first, we see the look on their face first. And if we take a second to listen to their story, then we can peel back those layers and see what brought them here. And Oda displays that on such a powerful level. His writing of these really important topics is near unmatched. Muted.
Oh, see, I mute because I have a lot of background noise, so that's my fault. But I was saying, I agree 100%. And you hit the nail on the head when you said, you look at someone's face, you look at the reaction, and you automatically prejudge. I'm a people person, but I also have this social anxiety where I meet somebody and I'm automatically thinking, oh my God, what are they thinking? Oh my God, am I making a weird face? Oh my God, I hope I don't sound robotic. I hope I don't sound weird. At that point, you're already gone. You're lost, right? In their mind, I'm not even thinking they might be just as nervous as me. They might not know what the hell to say, just like me. And we spend our entire time living in our heads instead of just reacting. So this is why I get envious of some people that just don't. They just operate. They just act. They move. To me, I'm very envious of those type of people. Now, I know where that social anxiety comes from because I spent a large amount of my life being overly self-conscious because of, being judged for little things I would do that I see other kids get away with, I wasn't allowed to curse. I wasn't allowed to go over to sleepovers from time to time, like little things like that. This is not a sob story because my parents raised me correctly. I had a great childhood. So, like, I don't want anyone to think my parents are horrible. Please, my parents are great. I love them. I'm saying, as a childhood, we all have trauma. There's no such thing as the perfect parent. No matter what happens, your child is going to receive some sort of trauma because that's what life is. You can't be perfect. So
just created so much
I'm
anxiety.
sorry. I knew it.
As a mom.
I knew it. I was like, no.
Protect my children from trauma from me.
It's expected.
Okay, you're right.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes.
Keep going.
I was praying. I'm like, I hope she's not getting anxious about this. What but the point is, what I'm trying to say is that getting over that social anxiety, getting over the fact that sometimes it is all in your head, it's harder than we think, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of active time. You have to consciously combat the little thought that comes in your mind. You have to consciously combat these preconceived notions over and over and over again. So when some people just give in to the trauma and let it become who they are as a person, that's when you get Boa Hancock's behavior at the beginning of Amazon Lily. That's when you get Doflamingo saying, I'm evil no matter what. That's when you get Arlong. Luffy is interesting because Luffy has had his own trauma with Ace dying. That is the one traumatic thing that Luffy went through. Him, that, and Sabo. Those are the two massive traumatic moments Luffy has had. So his overcompensation is his love for his friends and his crew. That's where that comes in. And I don't think a lot of people have realized that. Now more than ever, I think Luffy's trauma has been amplified by 100 because of Ace dying. Now, Sabo coming back was, look at how Luffy responded. He's like, oh my God, my brother? Really? Like, cause there's anyone that really raised Luffy. Obviously, it's the Don, best mom in the world, right? Best mom in One Piece by a distance. And then there's Ace and Sabo. And
sorry, but more than Nami's mom?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I'll fight you on that one. Go ahead.
It's a controversial take. But you gotta understand, like, the Don. I know the chat's like Bell Mare slander. No. No Bell Mare slander. Bell Mare is number 2.
Let's build an agenda against Jay. Let's start a hashtag that Jay hates her. We can spread this wide.
Oh my
Nobody
God.
has to know the truth. We can just say it and people will believe us. Sorry, go ahead.
You heard it here first. Merphy has a lot of rat in her just like us, because this is something I would do. So I'm very surprised. You see, look, they're like, what a rat. Exactly. So surprised. I'm very surprised with this behavior, Merphy. But you start the hashtag, I'll start another hashtag. It's fine. Trust me. I will.
Oh, no.
You don't want to mess with me, man. I have all kinds of agendas. I started a whole...
I don't even have Twitter, so I'm going to lose this war right off the bat.
Well, so it's not Twitter. There's other ways. Because if you've seen what I normally do, you don't stream on YouTube, do you?
No, but I could make a video about you. I could just lie.
We're gonna find ways. Trust me. Just if you randomly see a rat emojis in your comment section, just know they're from me. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. Anyway,
we could start a battle between our subscribers.
I promise you, they will do it. They'll do it. We're a family, so we move in packs. So we'll see. Look, they're already gonna start. They're gonna start. The reason I'm saying, oh God, I lost my train of thought. Luffy and trauma.
So sorry.
Trust me. That's what these streams are for. That's why they're streams. We have structure, but we also like being loose and talking about different things, right? So I'm going to ask you about Avatar as well at some point, because I'm very curious on your thoughts.
Oh, okay.
I'm very curious. Yeah. But to get back to Luffy's trauma, a lot of people don't understand that Luffy's trauma is built with Ace dying and Sabo dying eventually. Now Ace and Sabo's back. Luffy doesn't want to lose his friends no matter what. So he overcompensates by trying to put the weight of the world on his shoulders, and that's what motivates him ultimately. His relationship with Sabo and Ace shaped who Luffy is because he didn't have anyone. You remember the whole scene with Blue Jam? I think Blue Jam was the captain. Who was the guy that was beating up Luffy with the spike gloves? Was it like Porsche? Oh. It was like Porsche, starts with a P, whatever it is.
That was it.
Some random Porsche. I remember. Okay. I got a mind. Okay.
I know.
I blame Tekken because he reminded me. He Ace was wondering like, why didn't you snitch on me? Like, what happened? And Ace is like, Luffy's like, I don't have anybody. Garp is gone. Dadan and her bandits, they're bandits, and I'm a little kid. Like, I don't have anybody. I just have you guys. That to Luffy is his example of friendship. That means everything to Luffy because that's Luffy's whole world. It's like Ace and family. If you want to go to Ace and trauma, that's a big one to unpack. That again, Ace's. So my favorite characters: Garp, Sanji, Ace, Blackbeard, Crocodile, characters like that. Boa Hancock, obviously. Now take out Crocodile and Blackbeard because we haven't delved into their backstories yet. The common theme with all those characters is there is a deep psychological issue that they all have to overcome or they have not overcome yet. A lot of us like to think that Luffy doesn't deal with these psychological issues, but he absolutely does. Sabaody, right before Amazon Lily. No surprise, we dealt with trauma in Amazon Lily while Luffy dealt with his own trauma. Look at Luffy's reaction. To me, that's one of the most emotional moments in One Piece is Luffy dragging his head against the dirt, slamming his head against the dirt, reacting horrifically. Because his friends just all vanished before his very eyes. The people that matter to Luffy the most are gone.
Immediately after losing his brother.
Immediately.
Lost his family.
Yes, he lost his family completely. So then you look at the reaction after Marineford. Ace dies. His friends are gone. He didn't even realize his friends were still alive. Luffy at that point would have turned into Arlong and Doflamingo. If it wasn't for that one person we talked about, like your friend and my friend, that saved Luffy from going down that path and being caught up in the trauma. It just goes to show, because we're going back full circle now, it just goes to show, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how strong you think you are. Because I'm sure Luffy thought he was invincible at that moment in time until he ran into the pacifista. There is always trauma that you deal with, big or small. And trauma is relative. Look at all the examples I gave. I didn't go through any physical abuse. I didn't go through any traumatic deaths in the family, but I still had my own trauma. I'm not going to compare my trauma to yours or to other people's.
You don't have to compare trauma.
You don't have to. Because trauma is trauma. It's your mind. You still have to fight in your mind. You're not operating. I'm not operating in Merphy's mind. She's not operating in mine. So how she deals with her trauma and how grave and dangerous it was for her to deal with it, I can't understand that. And I never will. I can only understand what I go through. So it's relative. If I'm hurting, I'm hurting. So when you look at all these characters, all of them deal with trauma. And how they overcome it, how they respond to it, I think is beautiful. Because there's so many different directions that you can go in when you deal with trauma. And we talked about characters like Dofi, Arlong. And you look at people like Robin, who dealt with her trauma. Look how she ended up. Sanji, trauma. Look how he ended up. Usopp, huge. Rebecca. I mean, God, can you imagine what Kuros went through at Dressrosa? Kuros' story is tragic.
Yeah.
Like
absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. Taking what you just said and bringing it back into yes, you're right. Everybody experiences trauma. Absolutely. Everybody has it one way or another. We don't have to compare it. We don't have to say, well, that person has more than me, so what do I deserve? We don't have to do that. Everybody has it. And everybody is having trauma responses. So like we look at people like Boa and we say, look at your actions, and you can hate her for that. You're allowed to. People are allowed to. Someone else's trauma response could trigger trauma in another person, right? Like you're allowed to feel that way, Jay. So, but the reality is, you're muted, so I don't care what you're saying.
Oh my God!
No, don't unmute! Don't unmute! The reality is, we all are creating. We all have our own trauma. We're all reacting to the real life stuff that we've had to go through. And so we can look at someone else and we can say, look at your actions. But at the same time, like we all have those, we all slip up. We all have habits in our lives that we haven't addressed yet because of the experiences that we've gone through. So making room for one another, you use the word grace, having grace for one another is an essential part of just human connection. Not to excuse any bad behavior.
Of course.
Just understanding each other.
You know, there's a common theme I'm starting to notice in One Piece that, you know, it's funny because the main theme was we deal with trauma, and then there is one person that you obviously breaks you out of it. It's always one person, which is really odd. It's never just like a big group of people. It's always that one person. And
Intervention.
they were mentioning Law in the chat. And when you think about the trauma Law went through.
Corazone's my favorite character. I promise you I think about Law's trauma.
Oh, yeah. So would you
Number
say...
one character in One Piece.
Corazon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I respect it. I disagree, but I respect it.
Hey, you don't get to disagree with my favorite
I
character.
get to do what I want. This is my channel. I can disagree if I'd like to.
I'll pick you on. They like me better. They'll pick me.
Okay, really, chat? You gonna betray me? Really?
Yes, they will.
Okay. All right. We'll see. She got hit by the bodega. I love it. This is why I win. This is great. You're gonna have to repeat that because Discord is annoying and it'll make you like choppy for a second. So I'm just gonna claim that was my power. So would you like to share what you said again?
I don't know which part.
Oh, about
The fact
how
that they're gonna pick me?
Oh, about how the chat loves me more than you. That's what I'm saying, right? Because it's clear.
I said the chat will pick me because they like me better. They'll kick you off your channel and your channel will become mine.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see.
Do
how
it
long
just for the memes.
For the memes,
They
I'm
don't even
sorry.
have to like me better. They'll just do it.
We're strong and we're defiant. So I disagree. And we'll leave it at that. But I'm cool with the Corazon take. One, because I think Corazon is a beautiful character. I think him being the one to open up Law, like to this day, there's scenes that I always cry at, no matter One Piece. The Don beating up Garp, I cry every time. I try not to, and there's always like that little wet tear that comes out. I'm like, all right, it got me again, right? There's that one. And then there is Garp with Ace on the scaffold, and he's like, damn it, Ace, why couldn't you just live the way I told you? Again, this is why I love these characters. So much internal damage. It's like, what is he supposed to do? So you feel for Garp in that moment. You get upset. That moment with Corazon, where he starts crying for Law terribly, and then Law's awake the whole time, it's like Law realizes, oh my God, there is one person in this world that actually cares enough. I'm meant to die, and this guy still won't give up? He doesn't know me. Why does he keep doing that? Then when Corazon sacrifices himself, dies right in front of the treasure chest, and Law is crying in silence to prove that Corazon, even as he's dying, still looking out for Law. For someone who's terminal and has resigned themselves to death and watched their entire family to die, the fact that it took that much of a Herculean amount of empathy and love to open up Law like that goes to show what it means to really, how tough it is to break through trauma. Because only Corazon could have done that. It had to be everything that Corazon did for that trauma to start being rehabilitated to the point where Law became a pirate. He's like, I want to kill Doflamingo. Can you blame Law for devising an entire plan, fighting Kaido just to kill Dofi?
Sure. Yeah.
Nothing else.
Absolutely. Absolutely, it makes sense. And circling back to what we were talking about before, about when someone is in the midst of their trauma, when they're sharing that trauma, and the what they need from you is for you to just say, okay, I love you. I mean, that was Corazon to Law. He knew the depths of what Law came from and who he was and what he was choosing to be. And his last words to Law was him smiling and saying, I love you.
Yeah.
Because that was all that mattered. Like, he knew everything about him.
Yep.
And that was the only message he wanted to get across to that child.
Yep. Love.
Best character.
Okay, so after explaining that, I see why you have him as the best character. I still disagree, but you're completely...
Can't disagree with someone's favorite something.
Okay, I can disagree. I'm not saying you can't think that, but I just feel like it's important to state your opinion, you know? Remember you talked about...
Whitebeard is up there, too.
Whitebeard.
What? That causes you to pause?
Yes.
You don't immediately understand?
So, I understand, but Whitebeard When I look at Whitebeard, I think of stereotypical raw grandpa in anime. That's what I think. Now,
I think of an adoptive father.
okay, that's fair. For
As an
Ace,
adoptive mother.
okay, see, that's personal. So you see the personal connections. One Piece is real. You see what I'm saying? So like, I get that, and I think about Whitebeard more and how he affected Ace rather than Whitebeard himself. That's how I absorb Whitebeard, because I think what Whitebeard served to Ace was magical to me, in my opinion. So like that whole relationship is important. It's like intrinsically tied with Ace's character. So maybe it's disrespectful for me to group Whitebeard in with Ace's character, but that's how I receive it.
Well, and so many other characters too, though. But like the one character that betrayed him, and he just asked him, "Was I a good dad to you? Was I a good father?"
Oh, Squardo?
Like, yeah, that's the one. Squidward. You think I'm gonna remember Usquardo?
Oh,
His name
sorry.
was Squidward.
Squidward? Okay. I'm calling him Squid. Was it Squard? Did I call him Squardo? Did I add an O? I guess I did. All right, so we're both wrong, but fine. We'll call him Squidward for the sake of it. But yes, that's fair. I guess I didn't like Squardo, and I thought he was an idiot, to be honest. So
Yes.
he was a terrible
Absolutely.
person. I mean,
That scene wasn't about him. It was about Whitebeard.
it was. But it's like, I guess we didn't know much about Whitebeard at the time. So you just see, oh, fatherly instincts. This is great. Yeah. Maybe I'm justifying my reasons to not find Whitebeard as interesting
That's
as
all
many
right.
others. But, you know.
I love him enough. I love him enough for both
You can
of us.
just,
It's
you can
okay.
disagree with me. I completely understand.
I disagree with your
There
take.
you go. Thank you. That's what we do in this channel. Perfect. But going back to what we were talking about as well, again, all these scenes are extremely impactful, and it goes back to the whole source of One Piece, trauma, emotional moments. Every single character, the more I think about it, the more I see that trauma is like one of the main core aspects with character dynamics in general. So when you're reading One Piece, guys, and you're seeing a character, look a little deeper, because there's always something that you might have missed. Now, one thing that I find that's disappointing, and this is about Yamato's character, I feel like Yamato's trauma was not delved into or resolved. And that's one of my biggest issues with Yamato, because her wanting to be Odin is a traumatic response. Because Odin represents freedom, he represents adventure, he represents a hero. So when Yamato sees Odin, I said, I want to be just like Odin. I'm Odin. Yamato should be able to accept who Yamato is for who they are. And being a caricature of Odin is a trauma response. And my ideal, it doesn't have to be written this way because I'm not the author, but for what I look for in a character, I feel like if she had been, or he had been, delved into a bit more, and you see why that it was Kaido's brutal fatherhood that led Yamato in that direction, and how Yamato had to talk to Momonosuke or talk to the Scabbards and be like, hey, you're not Odin, but you can live in Odin's shadow. You can be inspired by him and become your own person. And then you have a huge character resolution with Yamato. Yamato becomes their own character. And then you have people who are able to connect with Yamato that much more. But because Yamato is only operating in the mindset of Odin, I feel like that puts a dampening on the character. Now, how do you feel about that personally in regards to Yamato's trauma?
Oh man, that's so the Yamato situation, I fully agree, is something that I wish Oda had dug into more, because there is so much back and forth about, is it a trauma response, or is Yamato just transgender and is using he him pronouns.
Right.
And there's so much back and forth about it, and honestly, I don't know that Oda was completely clear about it.
He wasn't.
And so I just choose to say he him just out of respect,
Yeah.
because I don't know. And I want to be as respectful as possible. So I absolutely agree that Yamato has loads of trauma.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. But I don't even know how to discuss all that, because I wish Oda had delved into it more.
So that's important. And that's one of the reasons I was frustrated, because we had a lot of discourse in the community. It was a very toxic time. God bless you're not on Twitter, by the way. you have freed a lot of you've given yourself a large capacity for mental health by not being on Twitter during the Yamato Wars. So I think for Oda, that was something that needed to be addressed, because with Kiku, it's very clear. With Bon Clay, very, very clear. Ivankov, very clear. There never had to be a debate because it's right there. With Yamato, I think that Odin identity and that gender identity is specifically tied to the trauma. To understand that identity, and for the fans to understand, that had to be addressed. Because then you have people saying, oh, Yamato's not using those pronouns. Yamato's just being an Odin cosplayer. Or Yamato is trans. Or Yamato is just confused. She's called Yamato was called a woman in the SBS. All these things could have been addressed if we actually delved into the trauma. Because Kaido calls Yamato his son. So Kaido doesn't seem like someone who respects pronouns, if I'm being honest with you. So I'm wondering, okay, that's more evidence for that. If we delved into it, say Kaido had a dynamic where I'm like, oh my God, I have a daughter. I never wanted a daughter. Yamato's like, oh, I wish I was born a man. What if I was Odin? Then I could be a man. That is clear. Because then at that point, everyone's calling Yamato he. No one's having a debate with it.
So, but Yamato choosing the male bathhouse, though, was what kind of made This seems to be definitive. Like, that was the one moment where I was like, all right, I feel like Oda is about as clear as he's going to be, so I'm just gonna I'm just gonna be respectful, you know?
And that's completely fair, but then a lot of people use the counter of Sanji finds the Okamas, his reaction to the Okamas is very aggressive. But then with Yamato, Sanji's like completely different. Kama's like, oh my God, Yamato, wow. So like, people will use that to counteract that, even though I actually agree with you. At that point in time, there's no real debate anymore. Yamato is sticking with this Odin thing to the end. Now, that's fine, and that's not really the issue. The issue is Oda normally digs into the trauma with these characters. Like Momonosuke, for example. I think Momo was a brilliant character. I think he's underrated, actually. I think what bothered me about it was him going through the age thing and becoming an adult. That kind of bothered me. I was like, all right, because I think Momo's aesthetic as a kid enhanced his bravery. Being an 8-year-old enhanced his bravery because he's tiny, he's small, and he's standing up to a giant dragon lord that killed his father. I'm like, look at my son Cook. Look at him. Look at the bravery. Like, Sanji was like, Momo, you're a real man now. He said, I'm the son. I'm like, Momo, as an 8-year-old dealing with the trauma he went through, Momo's a very strong child. Very, very strong. And the fact that he garnered the respect of Luffy, he garnered the respect of everyone around him, the speech he gave in Udon. These are examples of Oda's brilliance when it comes to expressing trauma, understanding trauma, and how people rehabilitate from trauma. I feel like Oda might have been a therapist in a past life or something.
Can I whine and complain a little bit, though?
Go ahead, complain.
Okay. He doesn't always dig into trauma where it's like a ripe field, though. Look at Big Mom!
Oh, boy.
There's so much potential with her! She ate her family! She has childlike temper tantrums. She's locked in a child's mind. Why did we never go deeper with her story?
So, you're spitting. And a lot of people are scared to say that. God bless you for saying that. Because I love Big Mom. Now, I don't like Big Meme, but I like Big Mom. Because, I'll put it this way. Oda wants her to be the way she is because Big Mom is a great tool for him to use in specific circumstances because her character traits cause problems. When you need chaos, throw Big Mom into the mix. That's why Big Mom came to Wano. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I understand everything Oda does, but I think it's very clear to see with Page 1 being taken out, Ulti being taken out, Mothering Mode, Amnesia, Udon. Big Mom's trauma and bad traits were used in a plethora of ways to advance the story.
Oh, yeah.
I think if we do not address the memories, Mother Caramel, the children, it's a problem. It's a big problem.
Agreed.
There's a huge Elbaf. That's why I keep telling people, Big Mom can't be dead. Because Elbaf has to happen, and Big Mom has to be there in some capacity. I feel like it has to happen.
I mean, I would love that. And I want to say I would love that, but she's dead. But it's Oda, so everybody's fair game.
Yes.
I would love that. I don't enjoy when Oda chooses to bring people back from the dead or fake out on us, but I'm very dissatisfied with Big Mom at the moment, and I love her. And I'm not happy that this is where we've left things because she is an untapped mind. There's so much potential there for her character that just, I mean, I feel that way about Kaido too, though. So.
Don't. That's part of. I'm using trauma correctly here because I was traumatized. Kaido, I'm so serious. My investment in Kaido was so strong. I'm like,
Dude.
this backstory, if it delivers, if we get the understanding of all the Merphy, you saw the little hints, the little bit of chivalry, the honor with his brutal appearance. He's got hints of chivalry, kindness, love for his comrades. I'm like, yo, there's something there.
Looking for Joy Boy, looking for the man that will finally kill him. The most honor is in death and in how you die. Like, there's so much there.
So much there. And then we got a slideshow. I was traumatized. I'm not going to lie to you.
We all were.
I can't believe it. Just complete.
Okay, back to Yamato. I feel like what Oda's going to do is he's going to posthumously give us more layers to Kaido, and I'm just not interested in it because it's too little too late. Much like how Yamato was saying, I'm gonna join the Straw Hats, I'm gonna be a crew member. Never mind. And then afterwards he's like, flashback, this is the reason, it's actually a valid one. And it's like, that was the wrong order. That's not satisfying.
Well said. Finally, somebody said it. There was a time to do it, and you didn't do it when it was necessary. Timing is correct.
Sometimes Oda is so invested in getting his twist into his story that he hinders his story because he wants the twist.
Yes.
And it's like, that was like the pointing factor for people who love Yamato. That was so frustrating for people who would be happy either way. It's like, at least give me a reason. And okay. Anyway.
Well, I did not know you had the strong takes on the Kaido backstory, but I'm very warmed. I'm feeling warm because I finally feel like someone understands what I was trying to say. And it's not to say that it's bad. I think everything that Kaido did up to this point was brilliant. Brilliant. And sorry, chat, it's Discord. I know, like, Merphy will cut out from time to time. It's Discord.
Oh,
so
sorry.
It's not you. It's Discord. I know how Discord is. So
not you, it's me.
It's not you. It's me.
I'm getting broken up with.
Anyway, what I'm saying is, it's nice to know that people understand that. Listen, Wano is good on its own, but there are portions where I feel like I know Oda could have done better because I've seen him do better. And I think with Kaido, he could have done better. And I think that with Big Mom, I had accepted what Big Mom was going to be. Sure. Now, the benefit is Big Mom could still be alive because there's still things that Big Mom can address. They're still putting statement. What scares me is that we have, what else? What other reason would Kaido be alive for?
Sure.
What's the because to me it's like when that backstory happened, I'm like, well, there's no other purpose that Kaido serves other than being maybe a deterrent in the end of the war. It's like, oh my God, Kaido's here and he's gonna occupy like 3 admirals so Luffy can go fight Imu, right? That's the only way I see Kaido ever being relevant in the story. Now people say Rock's flashback.
So, right, that's what I mean by posthumously, though. Yeah. I agree. I think we're going to get more from him in Rock's flashback, but it's too little too late. He's already dead.
It's too late.
And like, he served the purpose of being the strongest man alive and Luffy taking him down and accessing Gear 5. And it's like, I loved Chapter 1044. I thought it was amazing, but Kaido could have been the best villain. There was so much there for him. It just didn't happen.
I had a video saying Kaido will become the best One Piece villain. To this day, I look at that video and I'm hurt. If you see the joy in my face, I was just like explaining Kaido. It's like I felt like I was just crushed, I just couldn't believe it. So That's fine.
I feel you. I feel you. I couldn't either.
You said you feel like what?
No, I couldn't either. I couldn't believe it either.
I just couldn't believe it. Like I remember my reaction. I have a lot of my chat compiled a lot of clips of me in 2022, and they compiled my reaction to Kaido's backstory, and it was bad. It was so bad.
Oh.
I was just like, that cannot be it. I couldn't believe it. Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is terrible.
I was in coping mode. I was like, it's okay. It's all right.
So-
Round 2. This is just
It's coming,
the
right?
prequel.
This can't just be it. Like are you?
I was like, this is just the beginning. We're getting more.
Oh my god.
And then he went down, and I was like, you've got to be kidding.
No. And I'm a very passionate and loud person. So when you talk to me in this state of mind, when I'm already frantic and emotional, you can't try and say like, oh, we'll get it in the Rocks flashback, because that only makes me angrier. Because like you said, it should have been now, not the Rocks flashback. So the one example that people would give me, and we talked about this, Arlong. We got Arlong's flashback in Fishman Island, and it made Arlong a better character in Arlong Park. The only problem with that is we didn't need an Arlong flashback at that time. With Kaido, we needed the flashback there because Kaido and his motivations were integral to the plot. Arlong wasn't integral to the plot back then. We were still getting it was all about Nami at that time. Beating Kaido, Wano, all that. Kaido is intrinsically tied to the plot in the moment. So his backstory and Wano itself, the theme of honor, there's honor in death. That's a samurai code. Why does Kaido have samurai code? Like, why did
Tell me about his Oni blood.
Exactly.
What about his mom? There's a whole lot of questions I have.
Just a lot of things. So when you tell me things like we're gonna get that in Rocks, I'm like, yes, we'll get it in Rocks, but the purpose of the flashback has died because his backstory has nothing to do with what we'd be doing right then and there with the Rocks flashback. We just get a little Kaido tidbit, but it doesn't really serve any purpose with the Rocks flashback, because I'm assuming we're gonna meet another Rocks character, or we're gonna get a Garp backstory when he meets up with Blackbeard, and we're gonna talk about Rocks then. That doesn't help us. It doesn't progress the story any further. It's just a little explanation. So when you reread that moment with Kaido and his backstory, it doesn't hit as much as it would have if it was placed in that moment. And it's the same thing with the Law backstory. When we got the Corazon backstory, you felt it. Dofi's backstory, you felt it. Ace's backstory, the ASL flashback, to me, best flashback in the series. When it happened after Marineford, a lot of people were like, why did Ace turn around to Whitebeard? Why did Ace turn around to Akainu after he slandered Whitebeard? Until you understand the daddy issues that he had at an early age, and the fact that, like you said, this is a testament to Whitebeard. Now, I'm not disagreeing with you here. Now, I'm giving Whitebeard a little bit of praise. With Whitebeard, for him to give Ace that level of meaning and a family that he never had, if Ace did not turn around, he could never, ever face Whitebeard again. In his mind. Remember how powerful we talked about the mind is. Ace's mind is wired that if you love me for who I am, and the fact that Whitebeard was Roger's enemy, and you still chose to adopt me as a son and love me anyway, if he did not turn around to Akainu, his whole character is compromised. His entire being is compromised. He had no choice. And go ahead.
I agree with you. But I also think that, like, you have to look at it from a human perspective. He's in the middle of a moment. He's not thinking about it from an elevated perspective like you and me. He's here, and he's hearing someone slander his father when he grew up fathering Luffy and taking care of these boys. And now he finally has a father, and he can be a son to someone. And so it looks, from our perspective, like foolishness. What are you doing? This is your fault. But in the moment, all he feels is what's in the moment. And those split-second decisions, we all make stupid split-second decisions.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and that's all that was.
Yes, it was a split. I guess maybe I'm overanalyzing it, because it is a split.
No, you're not. I agree with everything you said. I'm just adding another piece.
You're adding
to it.
adding to a piece to it as well, like more of the defense. And again, I get it, right? And I guess we're going back to the original point. Obviously, is that people's actions and behaviors are shaped by the trauma that they went through. So then that's how we understand with Ace, Whitebeard. Because I'm trying to make sure that we're on track because we're going all over the place, which is good. But there's also people that are like wondering what's going on. No, don't say sorry. That's me. I'm fine with that, so no problem. But the overall point that I'm making here with everybody as well, and I will read some of the donations because I know you guys have donated and asked questions as well. Everything that we've talked about with the Kaido flashback, Yamato, Big Mom, if you notice how wide this conversation can spread, and we can jump to different series and we can jump to different real life examples, this is the testament to the story of One Piece and what Oda has written. The fact that we can have a conversation like this, be this random, this animated, this jumpy, controversial, is because One Piece is a very realistic manga in terms of psychology, in terms of morality, in terms of the way the world is, and in terms of its characters. The plot is fantasy, but the interactions of the humans and the themes, these are very real themes that I think a lot of us don't internalize. We don't dig deeper because it's a fiction and we're using it as an escape, so I understand that. But for a reader like me, I read and I watch for these moments because that's why I love anime. Like, my favorite animes, two of them, because they're joint one: Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Hunter x Hunter. And the reason I love those two series specifically is because Full Metal Alchemist, as someone who's a religious person, they tackle religion and the meaning of the world and God in ways that I just never thought was possible. I was like, this is deep. Fuhrer King Bradley, best villain, top 5 at least of all time.
Phenomenal villain.
Incredible villain. Like, just absolutely incredible. The line where he's with the Ishvalans and they're like, God will strike you down for this. I'm like, if your God's real, he'd strike me down where I'm standing. Beat me here. Don't talk to me about God. I was like, I'm offended as a believer, but he's also cooking. Like, what can you say to him? Like, what like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, all right, well, he's not wrong, right? So it's like, but it's like, it's serious. It's stories like that. It's like, it's things like that that resonate with me. And then, Hunter x Hunter's the example. You're caught up on Hunter x Hunter, right? You watched the anime?
Yes, I'm caught up.
Okay. Meruem and the story of Meruem and how humanity was highlighted. Did you watch the anime or you read it?
Read it.
Did you watch any clips?
I did, yeah.
Did you
I watched the final episode.
You watched the final episode? Okay. Mm-hmm. Did you watch...
I watched the battle. Sorry,
you watched the battle? No, keep going. So what else did you watch?
That's all. Just the final episode and the battle between Meruem and Old Man.
Netero.
Yeah.
You calling Netero Old Man is sacrilegious, by the way. Oh my God.
All right.
And you say the chat's supposed to like you more, chat? Did you not hear that? She called Netero Old Man, but she loves Whitebeard. Wow.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie. Okay, that's fine. It's okay. It's okay. He said, "Oh, Merphy, no."
It's been a while.
Anyway, so did you watch the clip after the battle where it's the narrator talking about humanity and malice? Mm-hmm. It's stuff like that hits hard because in the moment in time you're fighting against a biohazard, which is the Chimera Ant art, and you're fighting against a beast that is humanizing and gaining empathy. Netero is resolved to say, I need to end this before I start acknowledging him as a human being, because he's wavering between ant and human.
Yep.
That to me is incredible because it highlights how the world is morally gray. When you're fighting a beast, it's easy for you to conceptualize, I can do whatever means to kill him. The moment I acknowledge him as a human, that's when my humanity, my empathy comes out, and I won't be able to fight at full tilt. So Netero said, we're not talking. I'm not going to talk to you, because if I do, my heart will waver, and I will lose this fight no matter what.
Yep.
So
Because he saw humanity in him.
exactly.
And so then he was like, we can't keep doing that.
No, we can't. They're starting to convince me, so I can't do it anymore. So like,
Yeah.
when just to get back to the original point, it's series like that that resonate with me when we get into deep character analysis, psychology. So when we go through a lot of the plot stuff in One Piece, while it's nice and it's great, that's not what I've read One Piece for. It's not what I fell in love with One Piece for. It's not why I love Sanji as a character. People wonder, why do you like Sanji so much? I mean, look at his character.
And we gotta talk. We gotta talk. I just filmed the Sanji video today. We need to talk.
Okay, yes, I want to know what's the premise? Like, what's the premise? You don't have to spoil everything, but what's the premise of the Sanji video?
Well, I'm just digging into his character, what his past, what made him like this, how he is a man of extremes, and how his relationship with his parents made him really not know how to balance emotions, which is why he acts in such extreme ways, left and right. Oh man, we dig into all of it.
Okay, perfect.
So it's yeah.
When is that coming out?
I think not next week, but the following.
Okay.
Still have to edit all the panels and everything. I'll send it to you.
I was
early
about
if
to
you
say,
want
let me know, because I want to see that. Because I'm always
Let's do
interested
that.
in people's Sanji takes. I have friends. 3 of my really good friends in the community are avid Sanji haters. 4 of them, I lied. They hate Sanji with everything they've had, so I've heard everything.
I hate him too sometimes.
Of course.
But I also deeply love him. And we dig into his good and his bad in that video.
Perfect. Okay. And then did you highlight the Fishman Island moment that I mentioned with Nami and Jinbei? Did you mention that?
No,
That's
dude,
also-
I forgot about it. When you brought it up, I was like, oh no. Yeah,
so
no, I didn't.
it's actually an overlooked. It's an overlooked sin of Sanji, because in the moment of time, people are worried about Nami and Jinbei, because it's a beautiful moment with Jinbei. Nami forgiving Jinbei, that's a beautiful, beautiful moment. Oh my
Big,
goodness.
yeah.
Because Jinbei, you could tell that was oof. So a lot of people ignore what Sanji did, but that was one of the bad sides of his character. You know, I'm just like, you can't operate that way. It's like it's just not cool. But yes, these are why I absorb the story in this different manner, and that's why certain things like Wano didn't resonate with me as much, because of what you mentioned: Big Mom, Yamato, Kaido. The ultimate players in the arc didn't get the character attention that I was looking for, because Wano was a heavily plot-driven arc, and there was so many moving pieces that I don't think Oda had the time to focus in on them, especially with the certain scabbards as well. I think one of the best moments we experienced was when Kaido went down from the roof, and allegedly killed Kinemon in front of Momonosuke. And you saw that little moment with Momo and Kinemon, and how you see the fatherly dynamic from Momo and Kinemon, and you see how Kinemon stepped into that role and that hole that Momo had. I felt the connection so much. I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. It's right there. So if Kinemon died, it would have been perfect.
If only.
If only he died.
Should have been the one.
He should have, because if Kinemon died there, I'm telling you right now, people would look at Kaido and Wano so differently.
Oh,
So
I think
differently.
you're right. I think you're right. I agree.
So sad.
Missed opportunity. Big
okay.
one. Can I just super quick do a quick trauma character that deserves way more love
Oh, please.
than he gets?
Continue. Go ahead.
Ashura Doji, or Ashura Doji, however you should pronounce that.
That's fair, actually. That's fair. Yes, I'll show
Thank you.
That's fair.
Thank you for immediately accepting my take. No one loves him. He's my favorite Straw Hat. Everything that he was left behind, Jay.
Yeah.
He had to watch the country deteriorate. He had to watch his men die because they couldn't just stand by and wait. And he became so jaded and mad because of that. And he deserves his attitude. He earned that.
Yeah,
and the
he
fact that he still found the maps, and the fact that he still kept the ships, even when he had lost his faith. Dude, that speaks to me.
Yeah.
And then that scene between him and Dogstorm, when he was like, why did it have to take so long? Why did we have to wait this long?
Yeah.
Dogstorm said, I don't know. has to be a reason.
Yeah.
And then they moved forward. Man, like, drama character, and nobody loves him.
You're 100% correct, and it's ironic because my favorite scabbard was Ashura Doji and then Denjiro, right?
Do you mean it?
I am very serious. We have records
Why
of
has
it.
it taken us this long to talk?
I don't know, but we're here now. This is why I asked you, because I knew this would be the
Okay.
perfect video, because I know from the content I've seen, I was like, okay, you're a very introspective person. So I'm like, yeah, this would be good, right? Murphy'd be a good fit. So we're here now, right? This is great.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Because Ashura Doji, it's for me, it's when his brothers sailed away to fight Kaido and he stayed behind. And they left and they said Tsunachi. For him to wait 20 years to watch everybody in Wano suffer. And then for them to just randomly appear again, like, bro, it's been 20. Like, sometimes we read these things and we don't understand how long 20 years is. We talk about Boa Hancock, 4 years of suffering. Imagine 20 years of everything that you loved and believed in dying. Then watching the world not change. For 20 years, year upon year, the trauma gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. It's no wonder he was stealing food from people. It's no wonder, because at this point, he's like, yo, this is the world I live in. This is the way it's going to be. When you spend 20 years of your life seeing one thing happen, it's not going to change because of one random instance where, oh my God, Kinemon's alive and all the guys are alive. I'd be like, where the hell have y'all guys been? Why didn't you show up now? Why did you wait for me? Why?
Yeah, and Jay, when they showed up and they just expected him to be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, like, man, I felt for him. Like, you said you were a man of faith. Speaking as someone of faith as well, like, seeing your world crumble and then being expected to keep your faith flawlessly, and then people appear back in your life and they're like, what's this doubt? It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, you haven't experienced what I experienced. You haven't seen what I've seen. Like, I feel that. I obviously haven't experienced what he's experienced, but I can understand how difficult that could be and how you have to reckon with that in your life.
Can we just say that the way he went out, I wasn't a fan. Like, I get it, but I wasn't a fan. Like, go ahead.
On reread, I love it.
Okay,
because
explain.
a man who had lost his faith in the mission and in his people, and then at the end was able to, I believe he was the one that was able to see through it, right? And say like, no. So it harkens back to when, this is an abstract thing that has haunted me. To me, it reminds me of when Brooke and Robin were running from Black Maria.
Yeah.
And Robin was like, why can we see through the illusions and no one else can? And Brooke said, we've seen stuff. We aren't tricked so easily. We see the stark reality of the world, right?
Yes,
That's
yes.
Ashura Doji. He saw right through it. He wasn't tricked because he's seen stuff.
That's fair.
And to see that, and then to see what's happening and to make them leave and stay behind and protect his people in the end, I thought was really beautiful. I don't appreciate that his death scene was so glossed over when freaking Kinemon and Kiku got way better death scenes and then lived.
That's my problem with it. It's the
You talk to me about how you feel.
That's the problem with it though. It was very noble, but it's like, oh, he died. We didn't even show his body. We didn't say his face. Nothing. Just, oh, Ashura's
I
dead.
didn't think he was dead.
And I'm just like, that's what I'm saying. That's the whole notion of no body, no death. That's my rule with One Piece. If I don't see a body, they're not dead. I didn't see a body. So I'm like, yo, Ashura's still alive. There's no way he just went out like that. Like, bro, Pell took an entire nuke to the body and recovered. Like, okay, you know? Like, I would think... Yes. Yes.
Just happened.
So many people explode and don't die. Why does Ashura Doji explode and die? These are things that don't make sense to me. So for me,
Absolutely.
I was saddened and I was devastated because out of all the scabbards, and I have an agenda against the scabbards because I don't like many of them. I like Kinemon, okay, Nekomamushi, and Inuarashi. It's hard for me to consider them scabbards, considering like Watzo, and I didn't, you know, that's just me and how I cope.
Kawamatsu. I mean, you like Kawamatsu.
I mean, he's cool. He was alright.
Oh.
Listen, his backstory was sad. His backstory was sad. I resonated with it. But after that, he lost me. It's afterwards. He didn't really have another character moment after that.
None of them did anything, Jay. You can't hold that against Kawamatsu.
I can absolutely hold it against Kawamatsu. Maybe I'm being rash. That's fine. But I have flaws.
Yes, you are.
I have flaws, Merphy. I can admit that. But these are my flaws, and I accept
don't love you despite them.
Okay, all right, fair enough then. My acceptance, I have to accept myself first anyway, so I'm okay. I've accepted myself. I'm at peace. I'm good.
Okay. This is off topic, but just super fast. Let me volley for him. He's the opposite. He's the opposite of Ashura Doji, where he did keep the faith and he did believe in the cause. And again, as a person of faith, I look at their stories and I'm like, I just admire them both and feel for them both so much. You may just go on. It's fine.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. I didn't think about the 20 years and the keeping faith. I can admit I ignored that. He goes up one place in the Scabbards now. Just one.
What is he now? Number 7?
No. There's worse. Like Raizo bottom. Raizo's the bottom. Izo's 8. I might actually put Izo down to 9. Kawamatsu's like 5.
Okay.
I'll give him 5. Yeah. Number 1, Ashura Doji, obviously. Denjiro. I like Denjiro, but
Denjiro, even though he disappeared for a million years and there was never a reason why.
Unbelievable. Like, I don't understand. What was he doing?
I was hoping there was no reason.
Was he just like waiting in the room where Orochi was?
I projected a lot of reasons on him, but there was never an explanation.
We never knew where he was, and then he just appears, hey, I'm gonna cut Orochi. Like, oh my god, Oda, really? And arguably, he's supposed to be the second strongest scabbard out of all of them. So I'm like, yo, why is he... His big moment was cutting Orochi?
With all that said, he is one of my favorites too, because of his waiting and all that he sacrificed in those 20 years as well. So I'm with you. I just hold a grudge.
Okay. That's fair. Everyone has a right to hold a grudge. Oh my god. How do we get on the Scabbards? Anywho.
Yeah. So, trauma.
Trauma. Yes. Trauma. Things. Yes, definitely get into the characters, right? Because we were talking about how in Wano, there was a lot of things. My issue with Wano is that we didn't get to delve into these character moments, and you said, let me defend Ashura Doji. So I remember. Okay. So that's important. That's fine. Wano as a whole, no problem. We're out of it. Let's not delve on I think we've beat a dead horse with Wano anyway. And all kinds of things. So we don't need to get into that. We are hitting that 2-hour mark. That's normally where I cut off. Arguably, I always tell people it's supposed to be an hour to an hour 30 minutes, and we always hit 2 hours. So this is a testament to you and the good conversation you have. So appreciate you for coming. Before we go and we say our closing things, let me read the donations that people put out. Oh my god, don't tell me I missed someone's donations. This isn't good. Okay, because I know somebody donated and asked a very interesting question. So Carter donated $9 saying, gonna check out the VOD later, much love, and I became a fan of Dark Merphy today. Yeah, so they've now coined a nickname for you. You are now Bonnet Merphy, Dark Merphy. Yes, there's so many. You have to stand that. I don't know what it is with people coming onto my channel, but I bring out like the rat in them that just comes out, and it's just like they saw a side of you that they did think they see. So now you're in with the JD family. Every time they see you, they're probably gonna call you Durag Merphy or Bonnet Merphy. So you're here.
This is the truest form of me. I pretend to be nice.
You see, and it's so funny because it was the same thing with Roger. And then we had a stream with Roger on the podcast I have with Virgo. And Roger came out in waves. People were like, oh my God, this is the birth of Durag Roger. And then you see Morge. People were like, oh my God, Morge is worse than Jay. So people, I think it's because the way I am as a person, I like to take a lot of the heat because I'm a very reactionary human being. So a lot of people in the community will see it as this guy overreacts all the time. He's always yelling, slandering. All that. I have a very bad agenda for Kid. If you like Kid, don't talk to me. I have terrible things to say about him. So leave that alone.
Oh, you like that he got to Elbaf first.
So it's a possible chance of redemption. It's a chance of redemption for me.
Here I am trying to get you to start yelling, and I don't even want to hear it now. I don't even want to hear it.
You shouldn't want me to be toxic. I'm a crazy person when I get that way.
I'm looking for the toxicity. It's what I want.
Why does everyone say that? I don't understand. I did a stream with Joy Girl at one point. She asked me a reason why I like Sanji. And she was like, I'm so surprised. It was such a rational answer. That wasn't what I was expecting. I was like, I'm not loud all the time. Like, I have different sides of me, right? This is,
Should have come in here slandering Sanji. I should have just started listing sins.
Sins. If you wanted to get under my skin, what is something that normally gets under my skin in the
Caribou.
One Piece world? Caribou, no. It's Kaido's backstory normally, but we agreed on that, so there's no anything. If anything, I saw the toxic side of you with Caribou. That's what I saw. That and the puppies.
I don't hide that. And the puppy thing I try to keep under wraps, but the caribou thing I don't hide.
So anytime we see a Merphy video from now on, if you watch my channel, put in Murphy's comment section. She likes to kick puppies because we've established that today. It's already
awesome.
Yes, Merphy kicks puppies. So that's a hashtag. That's a hashtag to your hashtag about me hating Belmare. Murphy kicks puppies.
That's right. Jay hates Belmare. Jay killed Belmare. That's the hashtag. Nope, it's been done. It's over.
Hey kid, so what's this conspiracy theory now?
It doesn't have to be true. You just have to say it.
You're right. That's fair. And
It's the internet.
Brago does that as well, which is really annoying. I don't know what it is.
Nobody checks their facts. You just have to say stuff.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. This is why I always tell people that Kid would lose to anybody in a rural area without medals. So that's how I see it.
Oh.
Am I wrong?
Oh, that's a good take.
It says, because if there's no medal around, what is he going to do? We didn't see anything else.
Okay, well.
You put Kid in a farmland.
I have no counter.
Exactly.
I have no counter.
Yes. So,
I mean, I'm not the biggest Kid defender, but I also
no counter. Fate. Okay, that's fair. But yes, we got that Dono, and then we got Matt DeCaro. I like how this shifted from trauma in the One Piece world to trauma caused by the One Piece world. I mean, trauma's a big subject. It's a huge subject. So Thomas White with the $10 just caught up. A lot of people have issues calling Yamato he because they are extremely feminine. They are an extremely feminine, attractive character, which causes a disconnect. That I understand. Mainly it's because people want to thirst for Yamato, but then I look at Kiku, and it's like, well, Kiku is just as feminine as Yamato. I guess the only difference is,
nobody has an issue with that.
Nobody has an issue with that. So for me, like, I even told people, I was like, yo, Kiku's cute. People's like, oh, Jay, you're sus. I'm like, hey, man, she cute. It is what it is. Like, hey, at the point it is, like, if people are cute, the guys can be cute, girls can be cute. You just got to say it. So for me, it's not that big of a deal. Just get over it. Your life won't change, right? So I do agree with that, Thomas White, though. That is a good point. And then Kayla Brown with $5. Never thought I'd see this amazing collab. Shout out to Merph, my favorite booktuber. Shout out to Jay for this amazing discussion. Keep it up, King.
Was the favorite booktuber. Mine was about the content.
Okay. So is this your claim to your chat likes me more than you? Because I feel like I know what that is. So like, okay.
I'm just poking at you.
Of course you are. Nah. But another one from Darnell. Does Luffy have a child? I'm like to think no.
It would take a lot of convincing. If Oda wanted to introduce a child, you'd have to explain yourself.
You would have to explain yourself. So I'm going to say no. And then outside of that, I guess there is... I've missed some super chats. So I'm actually very devastated because someone asked a very, very good question. So for the super chat that I missed, very sorry. Queen Flowers for $10 says, even without a backstory, don't y'all think Crocodile has trauma with all his trust issues? Crocodile definitely has trauma. Ivankov basically said, look at how he reacted to Whitebeard. When Whitebeard was down, he's like, yo, Whitebeard, what's going on?
Yeah, and he obviously, he has that big secret that you just brought up with Ivankov. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I would also argue that even if we never get a Crocodile backstory, he's still one of the best villains. Everybody doesn't have to have a tragic backstory to be a phenomenal character, but he has one.
He's my favorite villain over Dofi, actually.
Is he?
Yeah. He's my favorite.
He's my favorite as far as enjoyability.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always happy when he's around.
So it is the
well, unless you count Buggy as a villain.
You could, but no. It's like, no, I will never call Buggy.
I don't think he's a villain. I think he's a hero. He's my hero.
Could be an anti-hero. Buggy is an anti-hero. Yeah, he's got like a Deadpool-ish. Yeah, something like that.
Deadpool?
No,
yes, Buggy and Deadpool, twins.
That was a very bad comparison, but still.
Oh, it's perfect.
Similar.
Hashtag Buggy is Deadpool.
Oh, God. Enough of the hashtags. Oh, God. Free me. But yeah, so the main reason, and then I'm gonna ask you an Avatar question, and we're gonna end the stream. So the main reason I love Crocodile specifically, I'm a huge organized crime lover. Not to say I'm in the mafia.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
You just said that.
Yes, I did. So I'm not. I promise you, I'm not in the cartel. Even though
I love organized crime.
I just love it. It's great. It's so interesting to look at. I'm not part of the mafia, I promise.
I believe you. Hashtag Jay's in the mafia.
So it's funny because my whole shtick is it's the Don, the Godfather, the future Hall of Famer. That's what I say before anything. And then my Twitch, the theme of it is drug cartels. That's it. There's nothing else. Have you ever watched Narcos?
No.
So when someone donates subs, like say they donate 10 subs, it says 10 subs have been shipped across the border, or 10 kilos have been shipped across the border. And it's like a little gif of Pablo Escobar like raising a glass of tequila. So like when I resonate with organized crime and gangsters like that, Crocodile's the archetype of an Italian mafioso, you know? Like Baroque Works, Executives, Mr. 2, Mr. 1, like it's better than the Doflamingo family because there was a little more sauce to Crocodile and how he carried himself compared to Dofi. Now Dofi's a better character, but Crocodile, instant love.
Yeah, I mean, me too. And that love has never ended. Impel Down was one of the best things that happened to me. Big Crocodile and Buggy together.
Oh my God.
Couldn't be better.
Can we just take a pause to realize this man changed into a suit in Impel Down because you have to look clean at all costs. That's what bosses do. He inspires me. I want to be just like him without the killing.
Oh, okay.
Without the killing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, do you read traditional novels at all, or are you manga only?
I am manga only.
Okay, that's all right. I have the perfect book for you, but you'll never know.
Okay, tell me the book and maybe I'll read it. You can't just give me
Jade
that.
City.
What is it called?
Jade City.
Jade City?
Mm.
Okay.
Organized crime, mafia, family. It's good stuff.
Okay. I'll check it out. I'll put it on my list.
I mean, I didn't like it, but you'll like it.
Okay, so that's great. That motivated me to read it more, considering the fact that you didn't like it. So I'm definitely going to read it now.
And then we can fight about it.
I'm going to check it out, and then we'll fight about it. Maybe another stream talking about Jade City or like a collab or something.
Good, let's do it.
Absolutely. And then lastly, before we
Avatar.
go, favorite characters.
Iroh.
So it's either Iroh or Zuko. I know it is. Okay. And then favorite book.
Peter Pan.
No, favorite book. Sorry, favorite book in Avatar because it's book 1, 2, and 3. I realized.
Just like rapid fire questioning. Okay, that's fine. Favorite book? It's gonna be book 3, but book 2 is a very close second.
Now,
What about you?
which one is book 2 where Aang was in the Fire Nation? Is that
Oh,
book
that
2?
was book 3.
That was book 3. I feel like it's book 2, and there's something that happened with Zuko that made me love book 2. Oh my God, Ba Sing Se.
But when they go and work at the tea shop, dude.
That tea shop stuff was special.
When he's
Special.
the blue spirit, and when Iroh confronts him
Yep.
to look within himself and ask himself what he wants,
Yep.
dude, that's a good choice.
And then the Iroh special when he
I
cried
don't
about
wanna
his.
talk about that.
He said,
I don't want to talk about that.
that is very, very, very emotional. I get it. I don't like talking about it either. It's so sad. Oh my goodness. First of all,
Yeah.
huge respect for the Iroh take.
Yeah. Zuko is my number 2, but yeah, no one passes up Iroh.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then last question: how do you feel about Korra?
Oh, I feel just painfully nothing about it. It's fine. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It is aggressively mediocre.
Very well said. I just get so annoyed when people cape for Korra because they love Avatar. You don't have to. Korra is mid. Season 3, people like die over is it Zahir? The guy who's,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, they're like, oh my God, Zahir's amazing. I'm like, Anarchy's not really my type of villain, you know? Like, just destroy the world and create a power vacuum. That doesn't get me up at night. I'm cool with that.
I still think he's a good villain.
He's a
did
good
fine.
villain, but it's like, I think it's a villain type that I don't like.
Sure. There's other ones to talk about.
Absolutely. I think book 4 wasn't bad. I think Kuvira actually wasn't that bad.
My hot take for Korra is I actually liked the flashback or backstory of the original Avatar.
Really?
I thought it was
It's a huge retcon.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay.
I mean, if you have to squint with one eye and not look out of the other, but if you do it that way, then it's like, oh, that's a nice story. I like that.
I can concede. I didn't think it was as bad as people thought it was, but
Yeah.
it was a retcon. So that's fine.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you don't care about the retcon, then that's fine. That's completely...
Well, I'm so uninvested in Korra. So,
so the
so
only
it was interesting.
It's so funny you say you're uninvested because the only reason I watched Korra is to justify why I thought it was mid. I'm like, I'm gonna watch all of it. I was like throwing up with anything with Mako, throwing up in my mouth. I'm like, this guy is literally trash.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember that much about it, truthfully. I watched it, I said, and then I moved on.
So that's how I did it. I'll never go back to Korra again. Maybe if I want to watch some bending, I'll watch some clips. But yeah, that's it. And then outside of that, what are your thoughts on the Boulder?
The Boulder.
Yes.
He's amazing.
I
What do you mean, what are my thoughts
the
on him?
Boulder. I love the Boulder.
Yeah, good. Tell me about your love for the Boulder.
Boulder, it was like the Boulder is conflicted with his feelings, like talking like in third person. I'm like, yo, this is
Oh, he's amazing.
the Boulder and Varric when he tells Julie to do the thing. Like these are things that I personally enjoy. So like just the love, childlike nature of Avatar. These are all things I love. So the chat saying they're releasing a Zuko movie, so I'll be there no matter what.
Yeah, they are.
I did not know
I
that.
actually. So my Zuko video, I pre-filmed it to go up on vacation. I bumped it up to tomorrow because I'm so excited about the Zuko information. I cannot wait for that.
So I will be checking that out, and I can't wait. So whenever that is, people give me more information on that, and we'll be ready. So I hate to say this, but I have to end it. I know, chat, you're gonna get upset. Also, apologize for the bodega. That's on me, but we had a brilliant discussion regardless, so I asked you to look past it and see the beautiful conversation that we had. So, Merphy, thank you so much. It has been a great time, even though I saw a lot of your combative personality today. Very shocked, very surprised, very surprised.
Really?
Yes, very surprised, but also very impressed. I enjoyed it. So it's been a great time. Is there anything you want to say to the chat? Any last comments?
No, thanks so much for having me.
Of course, it was a great time. We're obviously gonna have Volume 4 coming up with Parvision. We saw Randy in the chat. I saw Virgo in the chat as well. Shout out to Randy. Don't forget the Reverie is on the 15th. He has a trailer out. Go to his channel, watch the trailer. We will all be there. Merphy won't be there, but I will be representing Merphy in spirit by telling everyone she likes to kick puppies. So everything that we learn, I'm gonna misrepresent you horribly, Merphy. So I can't wait.
Jay hates Belmare. We need to flood the chat with Jay hates Belmare.
We'll see
Jay
if they
killed Belmare.
We'll see who the chat likes more depending on what they say. It's either Merphy kicks puppies or yes. So we're gonna do that.
I won't be there. That's so unfair.
That's the best part because you're not on Twitter, right? So it's this is great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But I'm sure they'll let you know.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So that is it for episode 3. I almost forgot. Episode 3 of One Piece is Real. Thanks again. Just as a note, what will be happening with the other episodes is those streams will be unlisted at some point, and they will be chopped up into little highlight videos based on specific topics. So if you want to watch the whole stream, watch them now, because once they're chopped up, who knows what's gonna happen to them? I'll decide. But check this series out. It's gonna keep going. It's a passion series for me. So stay tuned, and obviously check out Merphy's content. Merphy Napier, booktuber. The spiel. So again, Merphy, thank you, and thank you, chat, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Take care.
Thanks, Jay. This was a ton of fun.
Oh, I had a great time.